Good evening. I call this August 25th, 2020 meeting of the Morrisville Town Council to order. Thank you to those watching via live stream and those who are watching a recording of this meeting. To maintain the safety of town residents, staff, and the Town Council while following guidelines related to social distancing and limited public gatherings, this meeting is being facilitated electronically via Teams meeting. There are 4 council members present tonight in council chambers and 3 participating remotely from home to ensure that proper distancing and room capacity directives are followed. All council members will be able to fully participate in this evening's work. Active citizen participation is always important to Town Council. Public comments were accepted from 9 a.m. through 3 p.m. today. This meeting is being streamed simultaneously on both the Town of Morrisville Facebook page and the Town of Morrisville website. On August 28th, a video of this meeting will be uploaded to the townofmorrisville.org/government/live-video. A link to this page will also be placed on Town of Morrisville social media pages. Please visit www.townofmorrisville.org for updates regarding future Town Council meetings, or feel free to email townclerk@townofmorrisville.org with any questions. The census determines funding for our town for the next 10 years. If you have not yet completed the census for your household, please do so today at 2020census.gov. If you have already completed it, thank you, and please be an ambassador and encourage your friends and neighbors to complete theirs also. Now, Eric Smith, Town Clerk, will now conduct a roll call vote of council members. Please, Mr. Smith.
Mayor Cawley.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Garamella.
Present.
Councilmember Fender.
Present.
Councilmember Rao.
Present.
Councilmember Robati.
Present.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Present.
All councilors present.
Thank you, sir. I have the honor of doing the invocation this evening. I want to share that a few months ago, I learned a friend and teammate of mine from an Ultimate team up in Washington, D.C. had passed away. And this past week, another teammate from that same team died near here in Raleigh. While neither of these were COVID-related, these have been difficult times for the many of us who have lost loved ones recently. With our shared loss in mind, I want tonight to share a poem titled As One, written by Samantha M. Hahn. It's okay to miss you. It's okay to cry. Just know I'll never forget you. This isn't a permanent goodbye. Sometimes I sit and wonder if you are standing by my side, giving me the courage to carry on with pride. I'll hold on to our memories until this life is done. In my heart is where I'll store them, where we can be as one. Thank you. Please remember, here in Morrisville, we are stronger when we are as one, stronger together. Now, all who are able, please stand and join in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
We are now at item 5. Prior to further action, I will ask if there is a motion and a second to invoke Rule 19 so we can conduct this meeting remotely.
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rao. I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. If Town Clerk Eric Smith can please do a roll call vote for that.
Councilmember Robati.
Aye.
Councilmember Rao.
Aye.
Councilmember Garamella.
Aye.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Fender.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Cawley.
Aye.
The motion to invoke Rule 19 passes unanimously.
Thank you, sir. Before we adopt tonight's agenda, Town Council policy is to review and ensure there are no conflicts of interest or appearance of conflict of interest with any items on the agenda. Do any council members have any such conflicts?
None.
Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion and second to adopt this evening's agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rao.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Fender. Town Clerk Smith, please.
Councilmember Rao.
Aye.
Councilmember Robati.
Aye.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Garamella.
Aye.
Councilmember Fender.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Cawley.
Aye.
The motion to adopt the regular agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. There are 3 items on the consent agenda this evening: approval of the July meeting minutes and a resolution of intent to update the adopted FY 2021 user fee schedule. Is there a motion and second to adopt the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Fender. Town Clerk Smith, if you would do the honors.
Councilmember Fender.
Aye.
Councilmember Garamella.
Aye.
Councilmember Rao.
Aye.
Councilmember Robati.
Aye.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Cawley.
Aye.
Motion to adopt the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We are at item 9, presentations. There are 2 presentations tonight: a Triangle Bikeway study and a Morrisville Stewardship Program presentation. Iona Thomas, McAdams Project Manager, will make the first presentation. We have 30 minutes set aside for this presentation. Mr. Thomas.
Good evening. Thank
Ms.
you
Thomas,
so
I
much for
apologize.
having me. Oh, it's okay. Good evening, and thank you for having us this evening. Kenneth Withrow is also on the call. He is our Campo project manager. This is a joint project between Campo and Durham Chapel Hill MPO. Tonight is just a project kickoff and update for you all. There's no action required or request for any action except for helping us get the word out about the project and the upcoming survey. So with that, I'll dig into the project. Do I advance the slides?
If you can request control, I can give you control,
There we go.
and then you can run it from there. There you go.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we are going to do a brief introduction of the study. And we're also going to present some case studies from around the nation of analogous projects to get us thinking of what could be on the project. And then there's a website and survey that I'll introduce you to, and then briefly go over the next steps. So this is the study area, and one of the important things to look at is this nexus point right in the middle. The yellow part from the east, from that green point over to the east, which includes your jurisdiction. There's already been a 30% alternative analysis done on that project. And on that section of the corridor, we will be validating that analysis and taking it further into a 30% design concept. When we go to the west, we are following the I-40 corridor and then go in towards Chapel Hill on NC 54. This is a feasibility study that is similar to what's already been done on the eastern side of the corridor. Oh, sorry, apologies. Our project objectives, obviously we're advancing the design on the 30% section and completing the feasibility study on the western section. We'll be developing design standards, the overall character of the project. Connections to transit are very important. We are thinking that this would be a strong commuter option for our community. So that mode shift from biking to transit is very important. We want to be able to have some conversations around maintenance responsibility, work with NCDOT and the other, the MPOs around how future TIP projects might fit into the corridor. And then, of course, making connections into our great bike ped network that we have here in the Triangle. We do want to work with stakeholders early in the project and get meaningful input from stakeholders, which is one of the reasons we are here with you tonight early in the project. And then we're going to talk a little bit later about our stakeholder and community involvement, which is a very important part of the project. Our schedule, the main takeaway from this has a lot of detail on it, but the main takeaway is that we'll be wrapping up the study about this time next year with alternatives and hopefully being able to line up some pieces of the project for funding. Our community engagement approach has 3 real cornerstones for us. Effective multi-jurisdictional coordination. So we are meeting with each of the jurisdictions, the staff, not just one representative from each jurisdiction, but all of the related departments within that jurisdiction. So we're set up to meet with your staff next week, and we're also making presentations like this to elected officials as well. We'll be meeting with your transportation, engineering, parks and rec, public works folks, so that we're getting deep and meaningful coordination early in the project. We do want broad stakeholder involvement. This corridor has a lot of big, heavy hitter stakeholders. So we have RDU, state parks, RTP, large employers like SAS, and so we will be doing a lot of stakeholder involvement to get them on board and participating in the project. And then there's a real strong push we met today about how to make sure that we are getting meaningful engagement from traditionally underengaged groups. So making sure that our engagement and the responses and the participation that we're getting on the project matches the corridor that it's going to serve and the communities it serves. And then, of course, being adaptive in our engagement during COVID. So we have moved to a lot of virtual platforms, but we also have some strategies to do pop-up meetings with social distancing to engage and inform people about the project. This is particularly important for people who may not even know about the project. So if we can go out into the community and pass out a flyer and give out a free pen or a free mask to get the word out about the project, that will help get engagement on the for us. Apologies. We do have a variety of collaborative groups on the project. So there is a standing working group which meets every 2 months, and several of your staff are included in that working group. We had our first one last month. The next one is September 17th. The working group is heavy on the word working, so we will actually be reviewing alternatives, providing guidance into the study, and very importantly, helping the study connect deep into each community. Stakeholder coordination, I mentioned this a little bit. We do have those heavy hitter stakeholders, and so we'll be paying particular attention to that. And then we are employing focus groups, particularly with the underengaged groups, to make sure that we're filling any gaps that we may have in our survey and other traditional input needs. This is our community engagement calendar. You can see in yellow here, we have our online engagement questionnaire is out now. Our interjurisdictional meetings are going on, and we're in the process of getting our stakeholder meetings set up. So we're really kicking off, and you're one of our very first presentations to elected officials. So case studies, we spent a good amount of time looking around the country for case studies of facilities that ran parallel to access-controlled freeways and interstates. We think this is an important benchmark as we compare ourselves to other communities when we're trying to compete from an economic development, keep our communities healthy and safe, So we reached out and have a collection of case studies, which I'm going to dip into a little bit tonight. But we were interested in how long it took to get their projects on the ground, what challenges they faced, if they came up with design solutions. We're particularly interested in how they handled crossing on and off ramps, how they funded their project, what successful strategies they used, and then their partnerships and coordination. So we'll dig into these. I can't figure out how to advance this automatically. So the first one is Path 400. This is in Atlanta, Georgia. This is a 5.2-mile project that is actually in the process of being extended to connect to the Atlanta Beltline. About 2/3 of this project is within Georgia DOT right-of-way. And this project is a collaboration between the PATH Foundation, MARTA, Georgia DOT, the City of Atlanta, and then Livable Bulkhead. So really strong partnerships within the community to get this project on the ground, and a lot of advocacy within the community as well. Total cost was $28 million. One of the oldest projects that we have is the Custis Trail, which is in Northern Virginia. This is a 4.5-mile trail, and this project was actually built when I-66 was originally designed. And so this project is very, very well used. They get over 2,500 users a day. And because the project was included in the original design of the freeway, the total cost was only $2.5 million. They're in the process of extending this and growing this project. You can see here on the picture to your right that the noise wall is between the freeway and the bike ped facility. And that one they had to do a little, there was quite a bit of back and forth between the community and that. A note about noise and pollution, it's important to think about these projects in terms of where we're going with transportation in the future. All trends tell us that we are going to more electric vehicles, and so as this project comes online in 10 or 15 years, there will be a high percentage of electric vehicles, so the corridor is going to be much quieter and much cleaner than it is today. The I-90 trail, this is in Seattle, and this is a 10-mile corridor, very, very popular, heavily used corridor that connects Bellevue over to Seattle. A little bit of our presentation of the screen is cut off, but in that red box there, they are doing another additional section of trail. There's a little gap there, and they're getting that project on the ground now. Very successful, very popular part of how Seattle and Bellevue residents move around their community. The US 36 bikeway, this is a great project. It connects all the way from Denver to Boulder. So this is probably the most analogous project for us. Our corridor is 17 miles long and, as you know, connects major cities within the triangle. 100% of this is in Colorado DOT right-of-way. Total project cost was $16.6 million. So pretty modest cost, less than $1 million a mile, and a really great project. We've got, right now, they're saying about 500 daily users. We expect that number is a little bit understated, and we'll be talking to them more to get recent counts from them. Charter Oak Greenway, this is in East Hartford in Connecticut. This was another long one. This is 16 miles long, connecting East Hartford, Manchester, and Bolton. 2/3 of this is in Connecticut DOT right-of-way, and the cost is about $30 million. Really popular trail, and is a big part of the way people commute and get in and out of East Hartford. This one's also part of the East Coast Greenway, which I hope all of you know runs through the triangle here. The Columbia River State Trail. This project is a really interesting project where an old highway was abandoned, and instead of letting that right-of-way revert or turning it into more lanes of traffic, Oregon DOT is turning this into a state trail that runs the length of this reach of the Columbia River. It's an expensive project. It's $144 million, but we're talking about going, it has like tunnels through mountains and all kind of really challenging topography and challenges to deal with. Again, it's 100% within the DOT right-of-way. And then one that you hopefully know about, this is the House Creek Greenway. This project is not in the NCDOT right-of-way. It runs parallel on different sections of HOA land, easements that the City of Raleigh put together. This project was finished in 2012 for under $4 million, so just a little bit over $1 million a mile. But a nice connection, important connection from Meredith all the way up to North Hills. So those are our case studies. Hopefully that gets you thinking about what could be and what can be on this project. The website, can I share my screen to show you the website? Is that possible?
You can, yes.
It's
going to kick this one off, but I'll reshare.
Okay. I'll just give you guys a quick tour of the website, and I will. Sorry, it's fighting me. So this is our website, very easy website address, trianglebikeway.com. We would love it if Morrisville could help us get information out to this link. On this website, you can see all of the case studies are here, so you can get more information. There are more photographs to give you an idea of what these different facilities can be and look like. Then we have a crowdsourced map where anyone can go on and provide information about ideas they have for connections, difficult intersections. You just go on here and add a marker, and when you click finish, you can put your name and information and organization here, and then what category your comment is and your comment, and then hit submit. And your comment and your point or your line will become part of our project data. And then we have a survey that is asking people from a couple of different points of view what types of facilities they are most comfortable with. So here we're asking for them to rank their preference for greenway trails, for separated side paths along roads, and then on road facilities, different on-road facilities. And then we're interested in how close people want to be to I-40. Do they want to run right along the corridor, or do they want to be along parallel routes, surface streets with side paths or another facility? We're interested in where people live and work and then how often they want to use this future facility. And then there's another interactive map here which helps us understand origins and destinations. So you can put your home here and then add your work location where you work, where you do retail. And then the wrap up, we are keeping very strong demographic records of the folks who participate in the study to make sure that we are engaging equitably across the project. And so with that, I will relinquish control back to you guys. And I think we just have one more slide after that, and we can take any questions that you have. So our next steps, we have our next Triangle Working Group meeting is September 17th. As I said, we will be meeting with your staff next week, several different departments, and then they are also, a subset of those folks are also participating in the working group. We would love it if you would distribute that website link, trianglebikeway.com, out on your social media and through your networks to help have good representation from Morrisville residents on the study. And also that should drive them to update the crowdsource map. And then again, just your continued engagement as elected officials. We will be coming back to you guys probably through Campo with an alternative recommendation that we'll be seeking your input and guidance on at the summertime next year. So with that, I hope I stayed within my time limit, and if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. You stayed within your time. Now it's up to us to see if we do too.
Okay.
I'll recognize Councilmember Rabati, please.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Iona. That was a great presentation. So I'm curious about, in the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned that you make it a point to seek out groups that would traditionally be underrepresented. Could you elaborate a little bit on what underrepresented groups you're consulting with on this project and what steps you're taking to involve them?
So what we're doing is we're looking at the demographics so we've done a benchmark of the corridor to establish the existing residential demographics for the corridor. So we have that benchmarked, and so we know how that breaks down. We know that so far our respondents on the survey are 80% white, which does not match the corridor. So we will be doing focus groups to connect with Black, Latino, and Asian community members, and also low and middle income representatives. We're also checking into, it appears that our survey skews very male. So we'll also be trying to figure out some ways to franchise more women and get more women to participate in the study as well. So we're using focus groups to have a more qualitative discussion rather than just go fill out this survey.
And how are you identifying the members for those focus groups? Like, where are you
getting them? Yeah, so we will actually be working with the working group and the different jurisdictions along the community, along the corridor, to help populate those groups.
Okay, thank you. I definitely appreciate that that's part of the project.
Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, please.
So thank you for the presentation. That was a wonderful overview, and this is a terrific project for the whole region. My question has to do with, well, actually, two quick questions. One, remind us again when the deadline is for the survey.
The survey is going to be open for a while. So given our COVID conditions, we are in no rush to close the survey. What we're doing is doing little kind of campaign bursts on social media, working with the working group, working with different communities, and so we're tracking how each of those impacts participation in the survey. So I would hope if we can get it out on Morrisville's social media and out to your networks, we would see a boost. And we're also tracking the zip codes of people who participate. So we'll be able to see directly if we get more folks from Morrisville participating.
Okay, good. So you've given us a challenge. And then my real question is, as far as the feedback and the input that you are going to receive from folks that do the survey online, what kind of feedback and input would be most beneficial to you? And for like an example, are you looking for folks to tell you where they would prefer to get on and off this bikeway? Is that the kind of information that you're looking for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so all the information that we're asking for is important and has a purpose, but we have those two crowdsource maps that are really important. So the crowdsource map, the one where you can put a line or a dot, that can help us understand where tricky intersections are now, where commuters are already kind of carving out a path. And then the crowdsource map that's embedded in the survey, that really helps us understand like where you live and then where do you want to be able to ride your bike. Because this is a 17-mile corridor, and if you can imagine if we had a 17-mile long facility, it's a subset of people who are going to ride all 17 miles. Most people are going to have a trip that starts in Morrisville and goes over to Harrison, or starts in Morrisville and goes over to the airport or to RTP. You're going to have people using some segment of it, and so it's important for us to understand what destinations along the corridor. So people can really spend some time with those crowdsourced maps and then fill out the survey questions. The survey questions help us understand how physically separated people want to be from traffic, which is a really important, there's some questions in there about your comfort level, and it helps us understand what kind of facility the community wants.
Thank you. That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of things. Has there been any determination? I know in Europe they do some solar greenways.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that might be a possibility?
Well, everything is open right now. I've thought about solar greenways for us for a long time because we so desperately need shade on our greenways. So if we could shade all of our greenways with solar panels, I think that would be an awfully nice thing. I think a lot of it is going to depend on right-of-way, and we're in the very early stages of the actual design problem solving of it. But if that is something that you think has merit, please fill out the survey, and there's places to include comments like that.
Okay, I've already done the survey, but I'll go back. I can do the survey again, I guess, after I already put my lines in the map.
I think so. Well, I'll write down a note to follow up on it.
Because in Europe, sometimes they don't use it above. It's actually the surface material for the greenway itself. Also, what's the projected width? I know generally we do 10 feet, but if it's high-speed bikes going two directions, might it be wider?
So I think the cross-section is going to be a big part of the analysis because we're hearing from a lot of community members that it needs to be more than a bikeway, that it needs to be usable for pedestrians, joggers, all different muscle-powered modes. So that leads us to probably a discussion about separating the uses between the slower moving pedestrians and faster moving bikes. Because when you get an accident with a speed differential between a bike and a pedestrian, people can really get hurt. And so I think a facility of this length with a lot of commuters on it, we're going to end up talking about additional width to accommodate designation for pedestrians and designation for cyclists. But none of that has been determined yet.
Are you trying to capture that within the survey proactively, or is that something people would have to add in their comments?
There's not a specific question about width yet.
I mean pedestrians.
There isn't a specific question about separating bikes from pedestrians, but we will be working through that in the working group, and then also when we come back out to present alternatives, which would include probably different cross sections to the community will be able to, thumbs up, thumbs down on, everything integrated together or separate spaces for bikers and walkers.
Okay, and I guess scooters are kind of the hybrid in between that always need to be litigated as well, right? Power scooters?
Yes, I mean, so scooters are each jurisdiction that the trail goes through would revert to the ordinances and the laws of that jurisdiction. So whatever the policy of the jurisdiction that we're going through is on scooters, then it would default to that policy. So we won't have a separate policy on scooters. E-bikes, I do think e-bikes probably have a place on a facility like this. So these are the electric assist bikes. This is not a moped, but this is a e-bike that really helps in a lot of ways extend people's biking experience and helps people go a little bit further and also bike for longer in their life. So most communities are designating e-bikes as bikes, so they would be allowed most likely.
Okay, very helpful. And I don't want to get way down in the weeds, but for bike-car conflicts, I mean, you're going across a limited access highway and there's exits and on-ramps. Is it mostly going to be over or under those, or are people going to have to wait
So
at a
again,
button?
we are just developing all of the different alternatives. I will say that we are trying to grade separate as much as possible, but the alternative analysis is going to dig deeper into solving those physical and spatial challenges that we have on the corridor.
Okay. Thank you very much for this initial presentation. Looking around to see if any other council members remotely or in person want to make any comments or questions.
Very, very good presentation.
Seeing none, we'd like to thank you very much for the presentation and look forward
Thank you
to
so much.
encouraging our people to participate in the survey and from hearing more back from you when you feel it's appropriate.
Good. Well, I'll be happy to come back. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. So our next presentation this evening will be by Kyle Cooper, Parks and Recreation Planner. He'll present a Morrisville Stewardship Program update. Mr. Cooper.
Hey, can everybody hear me okay?
We can.
Awesome. Sounds good. I am going to go ahead and request control for the presentation.
There you go.
Hey, so it looks like that works. First off, I just want to say thank you everybody for being willing to listen to the presentation. This is just going to be a general overview of what we are of the program and what we're hoping to do with it, and basically answer the what, the how, and the why. And at the end, there will be some time for questions. And I'll try to make sure that we have enough time to get through everything without going over the time limit. So let me scroll down here. Doesn't seem to be letting me scroll. Okay, let me try this.
Yes, Kyle, use the scroll bar.
Oh, okay. I think that works. So the first well, the main question is, what is the Morrisville Stewardship Program? It is an initiative that is designed to allow residents and organizations in the Morrisville area the opportunity to participate in various volunteer activities that support Morrisville parks, greenways, streams, and town facilities. So, for a couple of examples would be to plant flowers in beds along Town Hall Drive, doing litter pickup along the various town greenways, and doing stream and creek cleanup along such streams like Crabtree Creek. Volunteer groups would sign up for maintaining a specific area or a set of areas at one location for 1 year. And different tasks would include such things as weeding, planting, pruning, and again, litter pickup, and other jobs as the project dictates. So the program came from two main sources. The first one was fulfilling an objective from the 2018 Parks and Recreation Master Plan for the operations and staffing, which was to develop a stronger volunteer system that builds advocacy and support for Morrisville's parks, facilities, and recreation program offerings. The second one relates back to the Connect Morrisville Strategic Plan Goal number 2 for thriving, livable communities, which states that we need to enrich the quality of life through the preservation of natural resources, well-planned development, and strengthen neighborhood vitality, or in short, to be responsible stewards of the natural environment. As for why we are developing the Morrisville Stewardship Program, we've heard from several citizens that they have some strong desires to be able to give back to the community, make the town a better place, and just basically put their time and effort to good use in improving our parks and green spaces. And we also want to help support public works with their routine maintenance jobs so that they can focus on their other projects that are going on in town and help to reduce the operating costs on routine maintenance. Additionally, we wanted to develop something that was similar to other Adopt a Spot programs in the local areas, such as in Cary, Apex, and Raleigh. And this program, the main question would be, how is it different than regular volunteer events? For regular volunteer events, they are usually a one-time job that have a specific scope and focus, such as Eagle Scout projects for building and installing things along greenways or in parks. The stewardship program is more focused on providing routine maintenance over longer periods of time so that we have more community buy-in and a longer payoff for the efforts. The funding for the program would come from two primary sources. Number one would be from Public Works. Their maintenance budget currently includes the funding for supplies and materials such as mulch, litter pickup tools, and flowers. So they already have that existing, so we would just be basically utilizing that for their project supplies. Parks and Recreation would be budgeting for volunteer recognition items such as recognition plaques and certificates, and also budgeting to set up volunteer recognition events and activities. We would work on advertising the program through social media and direct outreach to local nonprofit groups, advisory committees, HOA groups, and businesses that have connections to the Chamber of Commerce, and so on and so forth. And we would be doing mass emails to try to get the word out. As for who can volunteer for the Morrisville Stewardship Program, it can be any individual or organization in the Morrisville area that is interested in improving the quality of our greenways, parks, public spaces, and water resources. So some examples would be, again, some nonprofit organizations like Morrisville Youth Leadership Council, corporations, neighborhood associations, athletic or faith-based organizations, businesses, school groups, or just golf groups. Basically, we want to cast a wide net for that. And children that are 12 years of age and older are welcome to volunteer with adult supervision as part of the groups that apply for the program. For the time commitment for the program, we are looking currently at doing a 1-year commitment to the amenity that the group chooses to adopt with a minimum of 4 maintenance visits per year. And that would be spread out over the year, preferably quarterly. And the work hours for these groups in their project would vary by the site and the type of work needed for the project. For example, doing like mulching and weeding at a smaller park like Indian Creek Trailhead would take less time than doing mulching and weeding at a larger park like Church Street Park. And right now we're looking at accommodating groups of up to 25 volunteers for the larger sites. And applications for the program may also be taken during the course of the year and have their maintenance projects prorated depending on the date of the application. And the adoption commitment would begin on January 1st and end on December 31st of the year that they apply for. Let's continue on. We are currently proposing to launch the program in the fall of 2020, possibly starting with an outreach and open application period in September or October. And then after that open application period, staff would review the available sites and applications during November and try to match the group to the appropriate sites based on criteria such as size, proximity, requests, like if there's specific requests for sites or if they're residents versus non-residents, and so on and so forth. We just want to make sure that the groups that apply get the site that's best suited for them and that they have the opportunity for that. And we would be limiting the number of sites initially to start the program so that we can properly manage the groups that apply and try to grow the program sustainably. And let me just continue more. As for recognizing volunteers' efforts in the Morrisville Stewardship Program, we have a couple of different main ways that we are looking at doing that. The primary one would be that upon successful completion of the yearly maintenance, volunteer groups would be listed on a Town of Morrisville webpage that is dedicated to the Stewardship Program, which would include photos, the group name, and the project that they completed for that year. And we would also develop recognition posts to be put on the town Facebook page and the Morrisville Parks and Recreation Facebook page. Depending on the project location, garden plaques may also be installed to recognize the stewardship work of the group at that location. And some examples of locations would be on greenways or in flower beds, just areas that would make sense to have that kind of plaque there. Volunteer groups would also receive a certificate of recognition for display that they could could be printed out and displayed in their business, or have a digital version to share with all of the volunteers that apply. And then lastly, volunteers would be invited to an annual volunteer appreciation activity. This way, there's I don't think something's going. Okay, there we go. So, as for what Town of Morrisville staff does behind the scenes, the Parks and Recreation Department would handle collecting and processing all the application, managing all the paperwork and records of the individual projects and the sites, organizing the volunteer meetings, and getting information to the volunteers before they begin their workday. We would also be developing the social media content that we would carry over to communications for posting on the stewardship webpage. Public Works and Stormwater would be the point of contact for during the workday, and they would provide the tools, supplies, and equipment as needed for the volunteers to work on their projects. They would also, if needed, supervise the volunteers during the workdays. And they would also coordinate with Parks and Recreation to identify potential projects for for volunteer completion. And the Communications Department would update the stewardship website for volunteer recognition and post social media photos and descriptions that the Parks and Recreation Department delivers onto them. Scroll down. For growing the program, we're looking at a couple of different ways to try to raise the profile and get the word out. The main one would be to invite people to participate in a higher profile activity such as tree planting in an event such as the Fall Green Day event that would be sponsored by the stewardship program. We figured this would be a really good way to tie in with the existing town sustainability efforts and get people more interested in participating in the program, and we would follow up with the more simpler routine maintenance jobs in the areas that they apply for. We would measure the success of the program using a couple of different ways. The first one would be to document the site before and after, and basically show what the visual and material improvement of the site was based on volunteer work. We would also track the yearly participation numbers of the volunteers per park and per greenway, just so that we have that information available. And we would also track the hours of the number of hours of the volunteers, so that we have a way to translate that to cost savings and yearly total cost savings in the in labor costs and operating using volunteer efforts. Lastly, we would be utilizing staff feedback as we roll out the program by keeping staff in the loop. Again, gathering feedback as operations commence, and use that to fine-tune the program's paperwork and in-field execution. And we would be, with everything that's been going on, it's important that we make sure that the volunteers are safe. So we have a couple of COVID-19 procedures set up for the volunteer program. The first thing being that liability waivers are required for all volunteers who apply. We would ask them to fill that out before they begin their work, send that back to the program coordinator, which would be me, and we would also provide personal protective equipment to participants on their project days, such as masks and gloves. Volunteers would also be asked to have having the temperature taken using infrared thermometer before they begin work, and use a modified login timesheet to document that they've taken their temperature and that they have no symptoms. Social distancing would remain in effect with the minimum 6 feet apart as much as possible, and households that have lived together during the quarantine can work together. Volunteers that are presenting any symptoms before or during the workday will be asked to leave, self-isolate, and not volunteer during that workday. And we would be using the earlier login timesheet and to use contact tracing if necessary. And that is about all I have, and I'm opening up the floor for questions, and thank you for your time, and I'm really looking forward to being able to roll out this program, and if you guys have any feedback or comments, I'm happy to listen. So let me get some of the right way.
Thank you, Kyle. That was great. First, I'll recognize Councilmember Garamella, and then Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Hey, Kyle. I'll tell you, this is one of the best presentations I have seen over the last 4 years or 5 years here. It's fully complete. All my questions have been answered, and it's well vetted in. And I think this is a great addition to all the great work that you're doing that involves all the volunteers and gives a sense of community for them to come and contribute. I say thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Mayor Pro Tem?
So I actually am going to echo Satish's comments. Kyle, this was a wonderful presentation, and it is a fabulous program. So thank you for bringing this forward. And I'm going to challenge council. I think this town council should be a sponsor of an area in town.
Thank you for the challenge. Councilmember Rao.
Yeah, Kyle, excellent presentation. I think there's also a great opportunity to, and maybe you already mentioned this, but engage with, we're seeing a lot of interest with our youth, high schools for volunteer programs, but having a more coordinated effort in coming in the stewards program. I mean, if there's a way they can get credit and have something where it's, something that they can get involved in. So I think if we can, outreach to the schools, the high schools would be a great thing. But I agree with Councilmember Garamella that this is a very well thought out presentation. I think it's a great way to focus in on areas of the town and get our community engaged. And we can have fun with it with different types of challenges. I started thinking about that, different types of challenges we can do with each other or with the community, right? Like a steward challenge, So thank you.
Councilmember Fender.
So I think this is a wonderful idea, and I was excited to see it on our agenda this week. I do have one question. How will this be organized in the beginning? Will the Parks and Rec department identify the potential sites, or will the volunteers, when they submit an application, will they propose a specific site?
What we have right now is we have sort of a short list of different sites that the Parks and Recreation Department has worked with the Public Works Department and Stormwater Department to identify those sites. We've got roughly about 20 plus sites right now, our total for that, and we've broken it down. We tried to break it down based on the number of volunteers in a group that applies. So, for example, let me see if I can just get it up on my screen. So, for example, if we had a group from 4 to 10 people, we think that we have a couple of different locations on the greenways and in some of the smaller parks that we feel would match with that group size. And so for larger groups, we would potentially have them work in larger parks or on the longer greenways or in the stream cleanups. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Councilmember Rabadi, please.
Hi, Kyle, I just want to echo what everyone else said and tell you that this is a great presentation and what I think will be a very positive development for Morrisville. I think that I think people are just, desperate to get outside and see other people. And I'm also pleased that you're going to be able to incorporate a social distancing component. My question is for corporate groups that might want to get involved, how are you going to assign different groups to different parcels? Are you going to do that on a case-by-case basis as applications come in, or how is that going to work exactly?
Right now, for corporate groups, I think right now we're working potentially on a case-by-case basis. With that, I understand there's probably, with the corporate groups, there's likely going to be a lot of people that want to be able to volunteer within that corporate group. So we would probably need to identify that on a case-by-case basis and just, try to get that. It's going to relate back to what we were talking about before with matching the groups with the best location. So, with the best location for them. But we would probably want to try to identify it on a case-by-case basis and try to use the experience that we learned from that moving forward to kind of help develop that, if that makes sense. Sorry, I thought the stream froze for a second there. So.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Kyle, thank you so much. That was a fabulous presentation. It covered a lot of questions from myself as well, and I feel like you gave us a whole product, something that we can now activate with little, effort, and it's very turnkey. So very good planning, really great proposal. So it's a really great job. And I would also like to echo that challenge that one of my fellow council members said. We should seriously consider doing something like that, that not only demonstrates to the community our commitment, but it also allows us to work together as a team outside of our regular format. So thank you.
So yeah, the council can work on a tennis court, on Steve's direction.
Thank you, Vicki, for accepting my challenge.
Excellent. Mr. Cooper, once again, thank you very much for bringing this together and having the staff and the multi-departmental organization that's going to take to make this a success. Thank you for taking the lead on that. We really appreciate it. We look forward to hearing next steps.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And again, thank you for the opportunity. And appreciate it.
Okay. We are now at item 10, public comment. Town Clerk Smith will now present any public comments received, please.
Thank you. There were 13 public comments received. I'll start reading them now. They all did include a name and address as required. I am emailing my first apologize from Steve Lauderdale, 2104 Glade Valley Lane. I am emailing my public comment to mention two concerns about the draft land use plan update that you will be discussing this week. Number one, Holly Creek is currently very low density residential. The Planning and Zoning Board requested a change to reclassify the Holly Creek Road area as a neighborhood activity center. Fortunately, not even the town's planning department agrees with that amount of density. A neighborhood activity center would allow 17 dwelling units, apartments, or townhouses per acre. For the 44 acres in question, that would allow a theoretical maximum of 748 apartments or townhouses. What would 748 apartments or townhouses do to the traffic and the school situation? Number two, the draft land use plan update has a concept of adding 1,765 apartments in McCrimmon Extension. Adding 1,765 more apartments seems excessive. What would 1,765 apartments do to the traffic and the school situation? Now is the time to remember that traffic in schools are top concerns for Morrisville residents. Elizabeth Betsy O'Connor, 1001 Hemby Ridge Lane, Morrisville, North Carolina. Good evening, esteemed members of the Morrisville Town Council. I am writing to you today to express my strong disagreement and profound disappointment with the town's Planning and Zoning Board's request to have the area around Holly Creek rezoned as a neighborhood activity center in the future land use plan. Helen Grant, 116 Kudrow Lane, Morrisville, North Carolina. Hello, here's my wish list for the town of Morrisville. Number one, a key card entry dog park. Number two, less residential and keep more green, trees, and nature. Kathy Pitney, 1344 Legendary Lane, Morrisville, North Carolina. I am a proud 10-year resident of Morrisville and active voter in our community. As you discussed the land use plan this week, I want to express my extreme concern in regards to the Holly Creek land. I am against all of this land being zoned as a neighborhood activity center, as it is our last hope for Wake County Public Schools to place a school in Morrisville. Please keep the zoning here as very low density. Our children must come first to make Morrisville the best it can be. We are already experiencing exponential growth. Please keep this land available to provide for the benefit and education of our children. Donna Costandi, 2108 Glade Valley Lane, Kitts Creek Subdivision, Morrisville, North Carolina. Dear Morrisville Town Council, I am writing the town of Morrisville to voice my concerns over the draft land use plan that was previously presented by the Planning and Zoning Board meetings in August. Please do not classify the 44 acres on Holly Creek Road as a neighborhood activity center. I understand that Wake County Public Schools is currently looking at this land for a future potential school, and reclassifying this land now prior to purchase could prevent this from moving forward. This is the last parcel of undeveloped land within Morrisville that could potentially be appropriate for a school. If the council changes the zoning designation now, it opens the door for residential developers, of which this town has plenty already ongoing. The Planning and Zoning Board gave the rationale that changing the designation would be a better fit given the area. I strongly emphasize that the best fit for our town is to have additional schools to support the next generation of Morrisville residents. Please don't change this zoning. Don't take away the last best chance for Morrisville to have another Wake County public school. Thank you for your attention. Kevin O'Connor, Vice President, Kitts Creek HOA, 1001 Hemby Ridge Lane, Morrisville, North Carolina. Dear Town Council, I am writing you today about the proposed rezoning of the Holly Creek subdivision to Neighborhood Activity Center as requested by the town staff. I oppose this rezoning because the overwhelming concern of Town of Morrisville residents is traffic and lack of schools. The town has addressed some traffic issues by completing the McCrimmon extension to Aviation Parkway. Thank you for that. Neighborhood Activity Center is a fancy word for lots of apartments with a few shops. Grace Park, Wegmans, Food Lion, and Walmart neighborhood stores are all located on land that is zoned Neighborhood Activity Center. Net Sports will soon be torn down and more apartments. Another Neighborhood Activity Center will be built. Another Neighborhood Activity Center was approved and is being built at the corner of McCrimmon Parkway and Church. This one was perfectly planned by the town staff and developers. Who doesn't want a parking lot in the middle of a greenway? More apartments, another Neighborhood Activity Center was recently approved on Carpenter Fire Station Road, which will have 200 plus apartments and be 4 stories tall. Savon is new single-family community being built 1/2 mile down the road, but I guess we shouldn't discuss that growth because that is Cary. Additional growth has begun in the commercial section of Carpenter Village. Where is the necessary expansion of Aviation Parkway, Carpenter Fire Station Road, Davis Drive, and Church Street to handle all of this neighborhood activity centers designed to increase the traffic in and through Morrisville? I am asking that council reject this proposed rezoning and keep the Holly Creek subdivision zoned low density. Thank you. Richard W. Horn, 8900 Keystone Crossing, Suite 100, Indianapolis, Indiana. Thank you for meeting with me last Thursday. The letter was addressed to Brad West and to Town Clerk Eric Smith and was also submitted to the public comment portal. Thank you for meeting with me last Thursday. As mentioned in our meeting, our company purchased land for future office development in 2015. Attached is a survey, an aerial of the land which is located east of I-540 in Durham County along Slater Road and across from our 4540 office development. We delayed rezoning the property for multiple reasons, one of which is strong and continued interest from multifamily developers who want to purchase it and develop high-density luxury apartments. As Morrisville is updating its land use plan, we ask the town to consider zoning flexibility and to favorably view the potential development of this site as high-density, multifamily, residential for the following reasons. Number one, as the 4540 developer and former president of Duke Realty, which previously owned Perimeter Park, we have long received feedback that many of the area tenants want more housing options near their offices for their employees. Number two, a high-density multifamily development generates less traffic, and most residents in such communities do not have school-aged children. Additionally, because our site is located in Durham County, any school-aged children would attend Durham and not Wake County schools. These factors suggest a multifamily development would not impose a heavy burden on town resources. Number three, our site is adjacent to Davis Properties Cortland Perimeter Park apartment complex and is near many other new and potential multifamily developments that will soon seek approval from Morrisville. Number four, The location is surrounded by two of the largest business parks in the metro area and is midway between two major interstates. Therefore, we believe it will not affect any single-family home neighborhoods. Number 5, land availability in Morrisville is limited. We are fortunate to be a part of the Morrisville community and believe it to be one of the best communities in the Raleigh-Durham metropolitan area. We are asking the town to look at the highest and best use of the site in a favorable manner. Thank you for your consideration. Kim Shepard, 1020 Toplin Court, Morrisville, North Carolina. To whom it may concern, I am a concerned Morrisville resident and voter opposed to designating the Holly Creek Road area as a neighborhood activity center in the draft future land use plan. I am opposed to more high-density residential that will negatively impact our traffic and schools in the area. The 44 acres in Holly Creek should be used for a Wake County public school, and an NAC designation does not help Wake County public schools. James Shepard, 1020 Toplin Court, Morrisville, North Carolina. To whom it may concern, I am a concerned Morrisville resident and voter opposed to designating the Holly Creek Road area as a neighborhood activity center in the draft future land use plan. I am opposed to more high-density residential that will negatively impact our traffic and schools in the area. The 44 acres in Holly Creek should be used for a Wake County public school, and an NAC designation does not help Wake County public schools. Kate Thomas, 402 Apricot Circle, Morrisville, North Carolina. Hello. I am writing to inform you that as a voting resident, I am against changing the PZB request that all of Holly Creek Road area be designated as neighborhood activity center in the draft future land use map. I am concerned about the impact that this may have on traffic and commute times, and this may be valuable land which could be potentially utilized for future school sites or even maintaining natural green spaces. I prefer a focus on the health and wellness of our residents over commercial development. Glenda Top, 4139 Garden Lake Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina. Dear Mayor and members of Town Council, my name is Glenda Top. I am a land use planning consultant working with a property owner in Morrisville who wants to share his thoughts with the board as you deliberate the draft land use plan. We do not want to address a particular site, but the need for multifamily development within Morrisville. As is the case in many communities across the country, Morrisville's population is aging and diversifying. We see retiring baby boomers, professional workers choosing to wait longer to start a family or not have a family at all, an increase in number of single-person households, and growth in racial and ethnic diversity. These trends show that the demographic changes being experienced here and elsewhere are increasingly accompanied by changes in household preferences that impact housing, transportation, and other lifestyle choices. This future land use plan offers an opportunity to identify ways that Morrisville can maintain its high-quality suburban community experience while also accommodating the lifestyle preferences of this changing population. Land available for development is limited by formal agreements with neighboring communities and other factors such as the airport. Morrisville basically knows where future development will be occurring. Given this, many of the new projects in Morrisville will increasingly come in the form of infill development and redevelopment of existing properties. It is going to be important for Morrisville to capture the next generation employees by offering next generation housing. The town will want to offer high quality housing in suitable areas that can accommodate a variety of lifestyles, households, ages, cultures, market preferences, and incomes. This includes dwellings for aging seniors and empty nesters, multi-generational households, young professionals, young families, and members of the local workforce. Housing options and variety can take the form of different size lots, different size homes, different price points, different types of homes, and different types of home features, such as housing designs that support aging seniors and multi-generational households. Given the changes in demographics, it is critical that Morrisville provide more housing choices for all residents, specifically multifamily housing. Given the trends of today, more people are choosing to rent versus own. This includes singles, young families, and seniors. Our region's growing renter pool is buoyed by the Triangle's diverse pandemic-resistant demand drivers, continued renter heavy millennial growth plus 6 times the U.S. average since 2013, relative affordability versus our Southeast peers, and in-migration growth amplified by COVID-19. Specifically in Morrisville and Northwest Cary, we have seen population multiply 5.3 times since 2000. And with a young mid to 30 professionals seeking Class A rental options as reflected in submarket occupancy consistently at or above 95%. Based on demographic trends and growing flight to the best suburbs, we believe the demand for rental product in Morrisville will far exceed availability and creating leakage to other nearby nodes. As identified above, it is important that multifamily development be equally dispersed throughout the town and have access to major thoroughfares. As the council reviews the proposed future land use plan, we ask that you make sure that Morrisville is offering an adequate amount of opportunities for multifamily developments throughout the town. Thank you for the opportunities to provide this information to council. Mark Dixon, 1413 Everett Fields Road, Morrisville, North Carolina. Although I am the chair of the Morrisville Public Education Advisory Committee, I am sending this comment as just a resident. As my youngest aged out of elementary school, I am no longer the president of Parkside Elementary PTA. However, I am now the leader of the Alston Ridge Middle School PTSA. Again, I am not commenting on behalf of that organization, but just as a resident. With the rapid growth Morrisville has seen recently, I am concerned about some of the potential changes you will decide on. Specifically, I am not in favor of the area around Holly Creek Road to be designated as a neighborhood activity center. I don't think that the town planning folks support this request and ask a broad question about changes like this. With this location being rather significant within town limits, is just another high-density housing project the best use of this land? I would encourage you to think bigger. There are probably many other uses for this land that can really benefit Morrisville. Have you asked the town of Morrisville residents if they are in support of another NAC? In browsing some of the forums, I see an opinion that does not align with this request. Thanks for the time, and again, I am not in support of the area around Holly Creek Road to be changed to allow higher density housing. Monique Nesbitt, 1109 Circadian Court, Morrisville, North Carolina. Town council members and staff, since the council is discussing the land use plan, I wanted to let you know that I am against the PZB request that all of the Holly Creek Road area be designated as neighborhood activity center in the draft future land use map. It is crucial that the council considers the impact increasing the number of dwellings on a property. Those were all the public comments received that included a name, address, and were submitted during the submission period. There were 2 public comments that were received outside of the submission window. One was against the rezoning of the Holly Creek area and expressed dissatisfaction with the public input process into the draft land use plan. One was against the proposed rezoning of the Holly Creek area due to impacts on roads and schools.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for sharing all those with us. We treasure the input that we get from our residents. We are now at item 11, action items. There's one action item on tonight's agenda, a resolution authorizing a proposed amendment of the land use plan and zoning map for 101 Holly Creek Road. Chris Lawson, Planner 2, will facilitate the item. Council was previously briefed on this item at their March 10th and July 28th meetings, and a public hearing was held on July 28th and August 11th. Council is asked to take action on the item tonight. Mr. Lawson.
Hey, good evening. Thank you. I just have 2 updates for you. The first one is there were, at council's request, there were 2 use restrictions added since your previous meeting, and those were convenience store and central utility plant. Also, at council's request, there were 2 more attachments added to the agenda item. The first one is the notification of jurisdictional determination from the U.S. Corps of Engineers. The second one was a letter to council from the applicant about their plan for the fish and other wildlife. That's all I have for you. I can take questions, and the applicants are also here tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Do any council members have any questions before we just begin discussion and comments? Okay. I don't see any questions, so I'll just share my comment to start. The quality of life of our current residents is always my highest priority when I make decisions on their behalf. Economic development is coming to our region, and we have very few points of authority to guide and steer it, and I believe it is incumbent upon us as leaders to not allow it to run roughshod over our existing quality of life. A very important value which I treasure is first, do no harm. Well, in my opinion, approving this rezoning does do harm. It eliminates forever a natural site of forest and a really stunning tree-lined body of water. I visited the site this morning and had a chance to speak with Brian and Kitlin, who live directly across the street from the woods in question. I can easily imagine a natural walking path around the pond with people fishing or simply sitting along its shoreline. When I travel further down Holly Creek Road, I find myself surrounded by old-growth trees and the sounds of insects all around, which reminds me of the deep forest. I feel it is important for all of us as a community to preserve what we can. We cannot stop our neighbor Cary from allowing development on nearby parcels over which they have authority. Those are their decisions. This, however, is our decision, and as our choices become limited, our opportunity to preserve what brought so many of us here to Morrisville in the first place becomes even more urgent. I have to say that the damage to our natural environment, the loss of the potential for a place of reflection and recreation, far outweighs the benefit of another office building in one of the few remaining low-density, single-family areas of town that we call home. It would be tragic to have to think to myself what could have been every time I drive past this piece of land if it becomes yet another office building. I want to preserve it as is for generations to come, and that is why I actually oppose this rezoning. And at this time, who else would like to share their thoughts on this item? I'll recognize Councilmember Rabati.
Thank you, Mayor. Would whoever's controlling the video mind putting the resolution approving a land use plan map amendment for 101 Holly Creek Road? I specifically would like to discuss the section that says that, okay, so there is a section either in this resolution or the other one that mentions the fact that that properties around this property are designated neighborhood activity center. If it's not in this one, it's in the other resolution on this topic. And I have a question about that because I want to make sure that in this resolution we don't inadvertently commit to using the proximity, the zoning of proximate properties as a reason for rezoning. I do not want this property to be a gateway or to bind us to zoning the rest of Holly Creek Neighborhood Activity Center. So I just want to make sure that there's no language in here. I hope maybe it's already been removed, but I just want to make sure that there's no language in here referencing the zoning of the proximate properties.
I guess we're looking for a response from staff or our attorney on that one.
I'm looking through I know it's mentioned somewhere. I think it's in the peak agenda, and I think I wrote one of the justifications for staff supporting it was that property just south and then across the street were zoned NAC already. I do not believe that's in any of the formal resolutions, but I'm double checking as I speak.
Okay, that's great. I thought that it was in a resolution. I may have been mistaken. There was quite a few documents this week.
Yeah, actually,
but,
it is. I'm sorry, it is in Resolution B. Point A does say that the town of Morrisville future land use map identifies land south of this and directly across the street from the subject property as NAC.
Okay, I would very much like to have that removed. Okay. Is that something that we can do tonight and still vote?
So can I ask?
And I think, and further to that, I think that we should avoid any appearance that the proximate zoning of land connected to a parcel will be a determining factor in how we vote to rezone that parcel.
So can I ask a kind of clarifying question? Can I just, Ann, I hear your concern. But if I'm reading if we're all referencing, what paragraph? Let's make sure we're all referencing the same paragraph.
Yeah, let me scroll to that one right now. Jeannie, is there a way to flip pages?
Because that's so large.
Yeah.
You trying to go down?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Okay. It's just the image is so large, Chris.
Yeah. So.
You're looking for the resolutions?
Yes, I think I went.
They're back at the top.
They're back at the top. Okay. Sorry, guys, I was going the wrong way.
Sorry, I'm not trying to cause a problem. I just want to be really clear on what we're actually saying in this resolution.
Just keep scrolling. There it is.
Okay, so there's the ordinance. This is the resolution. So Resolution B, if you scroll to the second page, so it's, I think you're referring to letter A where the mouse is.
Yes, that is exactly what I am. Yes, that's what I'm referring to. Yeah, I have a problem with that.
Okay, and yeah, just to explain from staff perspective, this is referring to the current future land use map and just a justification of why we supported this request. As far as if we can remove it and still vote tonight, I'd have to defer to town attorney or someone.
I guess one thing that would help clear this up is when you say directly across from the subject property, which directly across Davis or directly across Holly Creek?
Yeah, they mean Wegmans.
Kind of,
Yeah.
I get it says identifies land south. I get that, but then directly across the street.
I agree, that is confusing. I meant directly across Davis. There's a small portion that's in Morrisville's jurisdiction. That's the NAC.
We have land across the street on Davis?
There's a very small portion. I can scroll to a different map.
Yeah.
It's not relevant.
It's a land. Okay. It's a land between the BP gas station, and the apartments, the senior apartments, I guess.
Okay, so staff was deferring to our attorney on whether or not item A could be stricken and we could still vote tonight.
Well, if Councilmember Rabati's question is answered by simply clarifying that the land across the street means across Davis Drive, I don't think that's a material change, and that could certainly be added tonight for clarification.
No. Councilmember Rabati's question is does this commit us to looking at proximate zoning when making determinations about changing the zoning for a parcel of land? What exactly are we saying that that's something that we now do? Because I'm not willing to make that statement.
I guess the discussion point is, does this set a precedent?
Let me back up and just say a couple of things, and then I'll
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
The planning director is seeking recognition as well. Really, the item is in three parts. And so, as you know, the land is currently zoned low-density residential. So this particular proposal is not allowed. And so the applicant is asking you to change your land use plan designation on this parcel to Neighborhood Activity Center. So that is Resolution A. That would, if you vote for that, you're changing the land use plan. Then Resolution B, which is what Councilmember Rabati is speaking to, states how is the proposed rezoning consistent with the land use plan. And staff has put together, listed two items that staff is saying that's how it's consistent. That can be changed, that can be deleted, that can be altered. It needs to be how you think as council that the application is consistent with the land use plan. And then you don't actually rezone the parcel until the next item, which is the ordinance. And that rezones this particular 5-acre site to the new zoning district with the conditions. So it's a 3-part puzzle. And I hope that helps, but maybe Michelle can answer some more too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. That does help.
Did just also want to note that with rezonings, one of the things that we do commonly look at is zoning of surrounding property, and that's actually specified in the administrative manual, which is a companion document to the UDO. It lists out what are really commonly accepted planning principles of things to consider when evaluating a potential rezoning request. So in the administrative manual, it does suggest evaluating zoning of properties in the surrounding area. That doesn't mean that you have to approve it. It's just one of the considerations. So that is in that document. The resolution that's on the screen regarding the land use map amendment, as Attorney Gray indicated, really the only general statute requirement is that council makes a statement as to how the proposed rezoning is or is not consistent with the land use plan. And whichever finding you make, it's still a legislative discretionary decision. You still have ability to vote either way on the rezoning, but the only requirement is that you make a statement. So you could amend this resolution however you see fit.
I think.
Okay, I'll recognize. Councilmember Rabati, does that meet your needs, or would you like to keep the consistency statement and just strike neighborhood activity center out of there?
I would like to strike the whole statement if we can and still vote tonight, but that's what I would prefer. But I do understand Michelle's point also. So if we can't do that, that's okay.
Could we do it without identifying the words neighborhood activity center? That just say it's consistent with the land use plan?
I think if council wanted to, reading over this again, we could strike A entirely and just have B as the rationale for consistency or inconsistency.
The attorney
I would agree with that.
Agrees that A could go away and we'd still meet the statutory needs.
At the core, the council is saying that this rezoning is consistent with the land use plan. That's what you are finding if you pass this resolution. That's the meat of the coconut. And if you have voted for the first resolution, Resolution A, then obviously you're making a change in the land use plan, and this rezoning would be consistent with that.
Okay, so I'm going to be recognizing Councilmember Rao. Are you on this item or something different?
No. I mean, I think for me, the way I'm looking at this, I know we had to change the land use plan, but I'm really looking at this specific parcel. And so I'm not committing to, just because we're recommending that it's consistent with the land use plan, that we would, and I think that's the concern I'm hearing here, is that are we implying that because if we did vote for this rezoning, that we're going to just take the whole 44 acres and make it NAAC? And I'm absolutely not in favor of that at this point. I came to this meeting specifically looking at this 5.5 and the work that's been done by both the staff and the applicant on this specific parcel. So if we could take that language out and still meet, A, and still meet our statutory obligations, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So I think if I'm correct, Councilmember Rabati said that she would like to take out A if that's possible, and it sounds like it is for staff and the attorney. I just heard from Councilmember Rao that is also the case. I'd be okay making A go away. Would anyone else like to weigh in on making A go away, or if they prefer to keep it? Councilmember Fender?
I agree with eliminating point A, the ordinance.
Do any remote members want to chime in? No? Okay. So I see 3 people. Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, please.
TJ, if you wouldn't mind pausing after you ask that question, because our response time is lagging versus in person in the chamber. So I know that the hybrid is kind of hard to manage, but could you give us like 3 seconds to respond if you ask the...
Noted.
Okay, thank you. I think that the in the document, the subject matter in B does appropriately scope that position. A further clarifies, but is not necessary. So thank you.
To clarify, you're okay with having A go away?
That's what I said. It further clarifies,
Appreciate that.
but it's not necessary.
Okay. Would anyone else like to weigh in on that? Okay. Sounds like we have 4 which are in favor of making A go away before it's voted on. Does that have to be approved voluntarily by the applicants?
No, sir.
Okay.
And you can deal with it when you come to vote on resolution B.
Okay. Do any council members have any further comments before we entertain a vote on these 3 items? Councilmember Fender and then Councilmember Rao.
I have one comment. I read through the new items this past week, and I want to thank Mr. Johnson for including the letter that you wrote, agreeing to work with Triangle Pond Management to have the fish relocated, and I definitely appreciate that, and that makes me feel a lot better. I still have a concern about the other wildlife. I know in your email you talked to the previous owners and they said there weren't blue herons. And I checked with the resident across the street, Brian Chang, and he said that he sent me a picture of a blue heron in the pond feeding, taken July 30th. And he says they're there all the time. So that's still a concern I have. I'll leave it at that right now.
Should I respond to that?
Yeah, feel free to respond, sir,
format.
if you wish.
So it's Jay Johnson from Raleigh, North Carolina, developer. What I was told by the previous owners who lived there for a long time was that they frequently saw wild birds like herons frequent the pond, but they did not know of any nesting areas or any places where their habitat. He felt that most of them were across up Twin Lakes, most of the Nestworth. But again, I'm not a wildlife expert, but I certainly haven't seen any nest or anything like that. And he confirmed that he never had in the time he lived there, and that was the distinction he made to me, at least. So I just wanted to throw that out there to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Rao.
Yeah, just a couple of comments before you vote. I was actually, first of all, I want to thank the applicant for working with the staff, and I was really on the fence on this one. I mean, I'm hearing from more residents about the fact that we need to slow down our rezonings and try to preserve low-density residential along with open space, and I'm completely open to that. And that's why I want, for this rezoning, I'm only looking at the 5.5 acres. But for me, what sort of led me to be in favor of this rezoning is, number one, it's not the whole acreage, it's 5.5 acres. And one of the conditions that I really want to get out to the public is that residential is not permitted. And so I think that's important, because I'm definitely hearing concerns from the public about multifamily and things like that. And I think moving forward, I've decided that I really want to see the land use plan completely completed and more input from the public on the land use plan before, these upzonings come before the council. But I think it's the conditional part of the rezonings that I think are very important, because a lot of work goes in both sides agreeing. And so this applicant agreed on no residential. The school issue is also big for all of us. I know the letter that was sent by Betty Parker could be construed sort of liberally, but I read from it that there's still an opportunity for school in the remaining acreage. And I think this council wants to work with our school board to continue the progress along with all the engaged citizens. So I think those two factors, in my opinion, made me realize that the third factor is the medical office buildings. And I think that particularly in the midst of a pandemic with providing more health care, I'm hearing from seniors out there that having facilities closer where you don't have to drive as much to get there, I think that, and I think that, if we have concerns moving forward, I don't know whether we can talk about different types of land use designations, or we can talk about process, about having these kinds of concerns earlier in the process. But for me, in addition to representing the citizens, I also remind the board and the council that we are the face of the town to the business community. And I think it sends a bad message long-term if we go through the process and then they waited 6 months because of COVID-19 and then they deny it. And I just felt like, we had to, we weren't being forced to do it, but I feel like we still have an opportunity for the remaining acreage to take the input from the public. And if we want to preserve it for schools or open space or things like that, I'm open to considering that. And I just want that to be out there for anyone listening tonight. Before you post something on Nextdoor, send something on Facebook, we did not approve a multifamily rezoning. We heard feedback today from the public, and I completely get it. I completely hear it. And I'm willing to factor that into any future decision I make. But I just wanted to get that out there before we vote. So thank you all for your hard work and for all the citizens who have weighed in on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any remote participants want to weigh in at this time? I recognize Assistant Manager Zudema.
Mayor, Councilmember Scroggins Johnson would like to make a comment after the motion is made.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, please.
So, typically we make a motion and then we have discussions. So I'll make a quick comment right now, and then I'd be happy to make a motion. Or not happy, I will make a motion. But I want to say, and I've said this before here in this room, as development, well, first of all, property owners have rights, and that's a legal, they have legal rights, and I get that. But as we look at development here in Morrisville, and especially as we look at rezonings, these decisions become much more difficult and should take much more thought. And I think in this case, this has been months that we have anticipated this vote tonight. So that this request has changed over all these months is not surprising to me and should not be surprising to any applicant who comes here to the town of Morrisville, because we need to be careful from here on out, especially. I mean, I think we've always been careful, but especially in these days as we look to do rezonings moving forward. And of course, the land use plan is going to be another big conversation that we all need to have. But I want to thank the applicant for really listening to the concerns of council members. This application has changed a lot, and we can argue what a lot means. But you have listened to the concerns that we voiced for our citizens and from the community. And there are a list of conditions that answer those concerns and address some of those issues and negative impacts. So I thank you for doing that. And again, that should not be a surprise to anybody these days here in this town. So I appreciate that effort, and I'm happy to make a motion as long as both Councilmember Fender with her concerns, and Councilmember Robati, if you're okay, I will make sure the motion eliminates point A in that second resolution.
Should be three separate motions, sir? Or
Yes.
So, I don't see anyone else will at this time want to make comments or questions. So if you would like to do the first motion, Mayor Pro
I'll
Tem.
do the first one, and then you can check with the virtual folks. I make a motion to adopt Resolution 2019-255-0A of the Morrisville Town Council approving an amendment to the land use plan for 101 Holly Creek Road located at the southwest corner of Holly Creek Road and Davis Drive to Neighborhood Activity Center.
Okay. I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from, I believe, Councilmember Scroggins Johnson. Okay. I now recognize Councilmember Scroggins Johnson for a comment.
So there's several of these, but I guess I'll start my comments now. I'd like to thank the applicant for bringing this rezoning forward. It is a difficult decision for myself, and I'm sure it is for many of my council members. The specific parcel is located on Davis Drive. Davis Drive, for those of you that are not aware, is currently 2 lanes on each side, but it is slated to be 3 lanes on each side in its final state. So this will be an even busier gateway through Morrisville and Cary than it is today. With that said, we did reach out to we meaning staff, to the school system and ask them about their interest in this Holly Creek location and specifically the parcel that is being considered tonight. And on August 3rd, 2020, the school responded that due to the proximity to the road, it was not a desirable parcel for the school. The school did not rule out totally that the remainder of Holly Creek was out of scope for a school, but they did mention that there was no current funding to acquire a school in the Morrisville area. With that information, it gave me insight that the kind of structure or development in that location that we're considering tonight is the best use would be a non-residential purpose. And with this, with many of these conditions, we are disallowing residences, which is important because it will not have an impact on the school system. But what they are proposing with this rezoning is a medical based commercial building, if you will. Although, you know, that is what is being proposed today. With this rezoning, whatever is built there in its final state would have to comply with the conditions. But today we are in the understanding that it probably would be medical related, which is positive for our community. We do need more medical facilities in the town. It's positive for people that live in Morrisville. Many people are in the medical field industry and they could work close to home. So there's many benefits to having a commercial building that is right on Davis Drive and also on a very busy roadway where it would not impact negatively the other related areas that are proximate, such as the Wegmans and the other living communities. So I feel that this is a good proposal. Is it ideal? What is ideal? What does good look like? This looks good today with the criteria that we have and the knowledge that we have today. So I just wanted to say that and put it out there because there's just a lot of churn right now, and this in no way, I reserve the right to consider the remainder of Holly Creek independent of this rezoning, because that truly is another situation and another set of circumstances. So thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. Yes, this is a single parcel that we're deciding on tonight. Do any other remote members wish to weigh in at this time? Councilmember Garamella, please.
Thanks, Mayor. I kind of agree, this is an isolated parcel, which is the best use is, I could think, nothing better than a commercial unit, especially serving the healthcare industry, is particularly ideal with the location where it is. And also, we have already vetted with the school system. And going back to Ann's comment about that it's more of I think it's a consistency statement that has been put pretty much across all the zoning applications that we have seen to have a conforming with the current land use plan, and that was just a supporting document more than anything else. So that is a standard BAU, I guess, for these kind of applications that they go. So said that, I have no questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second on the table. If Town Clerk Smith can please conduct a roll call vote on this first resolution.
Councilmember Fender,
I oppose.
Councilmember Garamella,
Aye.
Councilmember Rao,
Aye.
Councilmember Robati,
No.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Cawley,
I oppose.
the motion passes 4-7. 4-3, I apologize.
Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion on the second item, the resolution B?
I'm willing to make that motion too, but I don't know now, does point
Do we need a
matter to
supermajority?
anybody anymore?
Well, the first one passed. I'm happy to open a discussion. Do we want to readdress? We had decided that we were going to eliminate A, but we can open that up before we make a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2019-255-0B of the Morrisville Town Council pertaining to the adoption of a plan consistency review statement for proposed zoning map amendment for 101 Holly Creek Road. Property located at the southwest corner of Holly Creek Road and Davis Drive to the Conditional Neighborhood Activity Center District with the one change of in the now therefore that we strike A. Is that clear enough?
Okay. We have affirmation that that is clear enough from the attorney. I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Do I have a second? And then I recognize Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
I will second. I also have a question.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. I'm opening up for discussion at this time. I recognize Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, please.
I have a technical question about the vote tonight. The first vote that we took tonight was a 4-3 vote, and then we have this consistency statement vote. Because this is a rezoning application, is it not appropriate to have a supermajority or a 5 or better support for the rezoning for it to pass, or is it not required if it's is required, would we have a second reading at the next meeting?
I guess that's directed to the attorney, Attorney Gray.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Mayor. The first two items, the first item you've already voted on, and this particular item are resolutions, so there's no supermajority applicable here.
Okay.
When you get to the third item,
Great.
that'll be a different story.
Okay. I appreciate that clarification.
Okay. Any more discussion on the motion we have on the table? Okay, hearing none in person or remotely, if Town Clerk Smith can please do a roll call vote on B.
Councilmember Fender,
No.
Councilmember Garamella,
Aye.
Councilmember Rao,
Aye.
Councilmember Robati,
Aye.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Cawley,
I oppose.
the motion to pass Resolution 2019-255-0B passes 5-2.
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion to adopt ordinance 2019-255-0 of the Morrisville Town Council approving a zoning map amendment for 101 Holly Creek Road, property located at the southwest corner of Holly Creek Road and Davis Drive to the Conditional Neighborhood Activity Center District.
Okay. I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
I recognize Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, who's made a second. And would anyone like any discussion on that motion? Seeing and hearing none, if Town Clerk Smith can please conduct a roll call vote.
Councilmember Fender,
I oppose.
Councilmember Garamella,
Aye.
Councilmember Rao,
Aye.
Councilmember Robati,
I oppose.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Cawley,
I oppose.
the motion to adopt ordinance 2019-255-0 fails 4-3.
Okay, can we have some clarification from the attorney on where that leaves us with this application?
The vote failed, 3 to 4, is that correct?
4-3.
4 to
4 in the affirmation, 3 in opposition for the ordinance.
Yeah, the motion didn't fail.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
so the vote goes
that
4-3.
confused me. So it passes 4 to 3.
Okay.
But as Councilmember Scroggins Johnson mentioned, our state law does say that an ordinance, this is an ordinance, when it's voted on for the first time, has to pass by a 2/3 vote. Doesn't mean it fails, but it should be back before you at the next meeting. It could pass at that point at a 4-3 vote, but it would take 5 votes for it to pass tonight.
Okay, and it did not meet that criteria.
Correct.
So, council, I imagine, is comfortable taking this vote again in 2 weeks. Yes? That would be appropriate?
Yes, that's
Yes.
appropriate.
Just looking for head nods and yeses. Okay? Seeing that. Okay. So we appreciate the applicant coming, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Does anyone have any questions or concerns they want to share with the applicant at this time? Okay. It is 7:59. We will take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back for future meetings, events, and citizen opportunities. We can please reconvene at 8:10. Thank you. We are back from break. We're at item 12, future meetings, events, and citizen involvement opportunities. I want to share that free masks distribution continues in the town of Morrisville. Tomorrow at 900 Golden Horseshoe Drive at Cross Timbers at noon until 1 p.m. We'll be giving out masks. In addition, the food service there will continue through Friday, and Monday will be the last day for that unless there's some other measures taken. So please come and get meals and masks tomorrow. October 24th, Trick or Treat the Trail, Trunk or Treat. Please do a save the date on that. We'll get back to you on details. And November 11th is our Veterans Day celebration. For full listing of events, please see the town calendar at townofmorrisville.org. We are now at council and manager comments, and we'll be taking these in order. I'll begin with Councilmember Rao, followed by Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, please.
All right, thank you. Just a couple of comments. I want to, I know Mayor Pro Tem is going to say something about it, but I was able to tour the MAFC in August. That was great, but I'm going to stop at that and let you go. Wonderful. I got John Chambers hosting the North Carolina Virtual Startup Summit September 3rd. There's an interesting article in WRL TechWire about it. It's going to be about surviving and thriving in a post-COVID economy. Many Morrisville citizens worked at Cisco when he was CEO and chairman. And now he's chairman emeritus, so I hope people can come there, and I'll send out the links to the website. Just a reminder to businesses listening that the governor's job retention program, the deadline is September 1st. You can receive up to $250,000 of grants and loans, and you can go to ncommerce.com/grants. I want to end my final comments on a positive note. Last week, history was made as Senator Kamala Harris accepted her party's nomination for the vice presidency of the United States. This was an emotional moment for me, as it was the first time in our nation's history a black woman and an Indian American will be on a presidential ticket. And just last night, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, who's now rumored to be the front runner in 2024 for the presidency, both parents are immigrants from India, like Councilmember Garmella. And I just never thought in my lifetime that women of color could be considered for the highest office in the land. And I think it's just about time. And just as I told WRAL, I think it just speaks volumes of how far we've come, that any young girl today on the TV watching Nikki Haley or watching Kamala Harris can dream that they can become the president and hold the highest office in the land, and that their race, their religion, their ethnic background, and sexual orientation cannot limit them. I think that in a time of racial turmoil and division, where we're celebrating things like Black Lives Matter, I can't think of a better time for us to see how far we've come, but I also think we have a long way to go in terms of investing in our communities so that any young child can have this dream regardless of their circumstances in life. I don't know why I wanted to share this with everyone today, but I do think it's something that we should all feel proud of, and I hope that there's some girl in Morrisville, young lady or young man, a person of color, who is going to be a future president because of the history that was made last night, and I hope it's a woman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
So, Steve is right. Councilmember Morale is right. I was going to mention the Aquatics and Fitness Center. Both he and I were able to take a tour today, and I believe I overheard before the meeting started, Councilmember Robati took a tour at some point today too. We've been going in small groups to get a sneak peek, and if the citizens of Morrisville have not heard yet, we are opening the Morrisville Aquatics and Fitness Center on August 31st. The pool and the new tennis courts will be open. The pool is amazing. The pictures that we have been posting on social media don't even do it justice. It is a gorgeous facility, and I'm really proud of being a part of that from the very beginning. So thank you to our staff. Kudos. I know the opening's going to go well. Just so you all know, when we went in for the tour today, we were given the same routine that our citizens will go through when they come into the facility. So we were all asked questions. Our temperature was taken. And I will tell you, that made me feel really good. So there are precautions in place at the center. Got to see more of those as we walked around and how people will move about the facility. So For those of you that are ready, the facility will be open on August 31st, but you need to go out and sign up on our website. You need to sign up for a time period to use the pool and to use the tennis court. So please go out through our social media or the Town of Morrisville website and look for the Sign Up Genius and how you do that. And I see already we have quite a few residents signing up, so that's really exciting. So again, for those of you that are ready to do lap swimming, it's a beautiful facility. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Yes, I'm looking forward to taking a tour tomorrow, and I'm playing tennis and getting in the pool on Monday when it opens. So I'd like to public service announcement. Please complete your census today. It will determine if we receive an additional congressperson, and more importantly, completing your census today means that for the next 10 years, we will receive our fair share of our taxes back to us. Otherwise, that money goes elsewhere. Simply put, is the best return on investment for 10 minutes of your time ever. Include everyone in your household, your parents, your grandparents, your children, grandchildren, citizens, non-citizen. Include everyone, just not your pets. Okay, Councilmember Fender.
I just want to give a big shout out to the moms and dads that are at home and or not at home, helping their children adjust to our new normal of kids taking classes online. I have a 15-year-old son, and he's doing classes remotely, but I realize that I have it super, super easy compared to many of the parents that are out there that have kids that are starting kindergarten online and trying to work from home and having small ones taking classes online, or having to work outside the home and dropping your kid off at a child care facility and praying you're making the right decision and that they've got people helping them to navigate through the classes online. So just want to, my heart goes out to those that are having to do that. I know it's got to be extremely difficult. And I just want to say that, it's not going to be easy, and it's okay to not be okay. And, we're all in this together, so hang in there.
Excellent, great. Councilmember Rabati, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I also toured the Morrisville Aquatics and Fitness Center, as Mayor Pro Tem Johnson said, and I was thrilled to sign up for my membership. I just wanted to mention that they are currently, which I didn't realize and other people may not, doing outside fitness classes. Outside socially distanced fitness classes, which you can sign up for at townofmorrisville.org/MAFC for Morrisville Aquatic Fitness Center, and that I did also make sure to speak to the director about, and he confirmed that I know that a lot of people are struggling economically right now, and there couldn't be a better time to get out and exercise and enjoy this facility. So I did confirm with him that there will be some financial relief on memberships for those that need it, and and no judgment. I mean, you should, if you need it, you should ask for it because that's why it's there. I also just briefly wanted to thank my fellow council members. This was a really difficult vote that we had tonight. I know that we all struggled with it, and I know that I did. And I just wanted to thank everyone for their openness in discussing it, and for just the general effort to build consensus on this. And I know a 4-3 vote doesn't sound like we built it, but we really did honestly discuss it so much, and I'm just thankful that we have a climate where we were able to do that.
Thank you. Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm now unmuted. I would like to talk about my favorite topic, roads. And roads are very important in Morrisville, as everyone knows. Typically, they are congested during peak times, but during the pandemic, we have enjoyed having not such a congested roadway. But most importantly, roads do need maintenance over time, and I'd like to thank the Public Works Department for their current efforts in maintaining and resurfacing our roads. I know that this year they are working on and actively working now in the Downing Glen, Downing Ridge, Savannah, and Wexford neighborhoods. And this effort will be continued through the end of September. There is going to be some interruptions and delays possible in those neighborhoods, so I urge all of the neighbors to plan ahead, add extra time into your schedule so that you can be sure to make your trips outside of your home without any interruption to your appointments and so forth. But Public Works is really a fantastic group of people. We see them during the weather events a lot, but I do truly appreciate that, and I do want to also thank Assistant Town Manager Zudema, because he does take a lot of questions and concerns from our public about roads and about some of the construction projects that we have throughout town, and he's been very professional and does provide feedback in a timely way, and I have received many compliments from the public when I speak to them about their concerns about his real dedication to the town. So I really want to thank him as well. So that's all I have for tonight.
Councilmember Garamella, please.
Yeah, I have only two comments. One is a couple of residents from Providence area, or like that section, came yesterday and they were asking the condition of the basketball court at Shiloh Park needs some work done because it's causing a trip hazard. I've told Martha about it, so I would appreciate if the staff can look into it so that the kids can get back to work, get back to play, because that's needed, and they don't have any other place because with indoor, most of them are shut. And the other one I have is I'm still hearing complaints about the traffic light at the Sheetz gas station and 54 that we have. Even though there is no traffic, the way the signal is being set, it's taking 2 to 3 cycles for people to pass through. They're hardly getting 5 cars through that. I would appreciate if, Benjamin said they were working on it, but would appreciate if that can be resolved, because with no traffic, we're still having issues. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Town Manager Page, any comments from staff or anything else?
Thank you, Mayor. About 5 minutes ago, we received a message from Councilmember Robati that she's had a family emergency and needs to be excused from the meeting, if council would so consider that.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to excuse Councilmember Rabati for the remainder of the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote from Town Clerk on excusing Councilmember Rabati starting at 8:25?
Councilmember Fender?
Aye.
Councilmember Garamella?
Aye.
Councilmember Rao?
Aye.
Councilmember Robati? Councilmember Scroggins Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Cawley?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Town Manager Page, any staff comments this evening?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. We wish her well on her family emergency. We are now at item 14, a work session. We have one work session this evening, part 1 of a draft land use plan work session. The draft plan presentation by Brad West, our senior planner. He will facilitate the work session. pass it to you, Mr. West.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm happy to present the draft update to the 2009 land use plan. This has been 2.5 years in the making, and that included a lot of work, policy guidance, and public input from the various citizens and community members of Morrisville, input from town council, input from planning and zoning board or key stakeholders. A lot has changed since 2009. We've seen a tremendous amount of growth. It's not surprising. We're at the center of this region with over 2.1 million people and growing. Certainly understandable that we've seen a lot of change in this past decade. And with this growth, comes a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities to shape Morrisville in a way that benefits us all. House Levine has done a commendable job in articulating the needs and desires various voices across a wide spectrum of opinions. You heard some of those opinions earlier in the public comment section. And like any land use plan or any large policy document, really, we fully expect not everyone is going to hear or is going to be happy with the recommendations of the plan. We totally get that. But I can guarantee that House Levine has done everything in their power to address the concerns and different segments of the community and stitch together a plan that moves Morrisville ultimately forward. We as staff, as a result, believe that this is something that the town council and other folks can feel really good about and rely on for policy direction in the next 10 to 20 years. So with that being said, I should also mention that since we have kind of a Q&A work session planned for August 27th and also on the 21st of September, we just ask that you jot down questions or concerns you have as Nick Davis with House Levine goes through the plan, and also just hold off all questions until those 2 work sessions. So I appreciate that. And I will, So Nick, take it away.
Okay. Sure. And then Brad, can you minimize whatever that gray box is again? Well, first of all, thank you everybody on Town Council giving us the opportunity to present the draft Morrisville land use plan. So as Brad said, what I'm going to do is we have a lot that we'd like to cover tonight. We're going to go through each one of the chapters. There's 7 chapters. Some of this I'm hoping is very familiar. The first 3 sections should be a recap of things that we've already talked about really in detail. So I won't spend a lot of time there. Really want to focus in on the land use plan itself, also the land use considerations that follow that up, sub areas, and then implementation. So those are really the 4 big sections that are new to the group. Okay, so yeah, like I said, we'll talk a little bit about introduction, community context, vision goals, but really the bulk of the discussion or the bulk of the presentation tonight is on the land use plan, land use considerations, sub areas, and implementation. So as Brad said, this has been a very thorough process as we've gone through developing the actual land use plan itself. At the beginning of this, we've identified inside the introduction what the purpose of the land use plan is, why we do these types of plans, how it's going to be helpful moving forward. Many of the discussions that we're having tonight would be directly addressed or have at least policy indications within the land use plan itself. We did a review and plan update process, so what that's taken for us to get to kind of where we're at. There was the kickoff, which was phase 1, project initiation. Phase 2 was outreach and community engagement, which I'll go over in a little bit more detail in the next couple of pages. Phase 3 was an existing conditions analysis. So that was a summary of much of what we heard from the community input phase and the output phase, but also from past plans and studies, much of our field reconnaissance, working with staff, working with key stakeholders, and trying to learn as much as we possibly could about the community. And then that really set the foundation for the plan's recommendations, led into the community vision and goals, which is phase 4. We presented the vision and goals to PDB, town council, worked with staff. So when we get to that component, again, that's a very familiar section that you've seen. Phase 5 was the development of the sub-area plans, which we'll talk about in detail tonight. And then phase 6 was the community-wide plans and policies, which is really the establishment of the land use map itself, the land use designations, and then ultimately the land use considerations that'll help you achieve what we're trying to accomplish in that community-wide plan. Then the last section, or the last phase of this, is kind of where we're at now. We're really in between phase 6 and phase 7, and that we're presenting this entire draft plan, this entire document that is the land use plan update, but we're also starting to move through a much more comprehensive document, a review process, and so be it. So chapter 2, just community context. This identifies the planning area, looks at the Morrisville municipal boundary, which is what's shown in yellow, and then the ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction, which is in blue. These are areas that, although you don't currently have them annexed into the municipal boundary, we are planning for, we are anticipating that those areas will be incorporated based on the boundary agreements that you have with surrounding municipalities. There's a brief history about, not a thorough deep dive, but just a brief history about Morrisville, how it began, and really how that's impacted some of the plans, recommendations, and how the community has developed over time. We reviewed, as I said, past plans, studies, reports, really anything that had relevant recommendations that would impact our understanding of what the land use plan needs to accomplish. We went all the way back to the 2007 Town Center Plan. We're looking at the McCrimmon Parkway Extension Area Development Guide in 2012, the Connect Morrisville Strategic Plan, the Parks and Rec the Comprehensive Master Plan, the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, which was just adopted last year, and the same thing with the Morrisville Affordable Housing Plan in 2019. All of these documents, wherever there was a relevant recommendation or policy that could be tied into either the land use or could ultimately impact some of the zoning decisions that are going to happen, were carried forward from those sources into this plan. As I'd mentioned, the outreach and engagement was a thorough process throughout this entire project. We conducted, pre-COVID, there was a lot of in-person outreach. There was some complementary outreach that was conducted in 2017. We were able to take a lot of that information and fold it into our initial summary of outreach. We had established a technical advisory committee, and they really did serve as a sounding board for us as we were moving through the process and trying to look for feedback from key stakeholders in the community, give us a sense if we were on track. We had community workshops through May and December of 2018. We conducted over 20 key person interviews, which were really meant to talk specifically to people that have knowledge. Maybe it's with the school district or the parks and open space, local developers or property owners. The town, we gave the town a DIY kit, and that had 95 participants that took those surveys, conducted those surveys, filled out all this information, and then handed that back to the town, gave that to us, and we summarized it. And using that information allowed people to participate at their own pace or at their own time. The town conducted a very thorough postcard campaign, get the message out there, asking people, I believe the most important issue facing Morrisville is, asking questions like, I think Morrisville's greatest assets are, and this is how I would improve one thing in Morrisville and what that would be. That was sent out, and that was sent out to over 12,000 addresses. A lot of that feedback that we had taken was folded right into our community summaries, and a lot of the plan recommendations are tied back to all of these different events. Several community outreach events, additional workshops were held. There was outreach that we're still working through on the plan adoption, what that's going to look like, what an online virtual open house might look like. We met with PZB a few weeks back. Here we are today talking with town council. I think this is broken up into pieces over the next couple of weeks or months. And it's just trying to give as many people an opportunity to hear and see the draft plan. Currently, the draft plan is on our project website, so it's something that can be downloaded. There's an FAQ if anybody has any specific questions or comments that they'd like to ask about the plan. One component that I know this group's very familiar with, and we've talked through this process, was that town center web scene and immersive 3D model. This very much informed the direction, both the recommendations inside of the town center sub-area, but also just any feedback we were receiving from the public, gave them an opportunity to understand what we were going to ultimately put into the plan based on any feedback that they could give us. Is this the direction they'd like to see that area go? Are there specific comments about access or the types of building products that we're talking about, or how people could move through these areas or where parking might be located. But these two options were options that we presented to PZB, town staff, obviously your group, the town council, and took all that feedback and built that into the sub-area plan that we'll talk about a little bit later. As I'd mentioned, there's been an extensive online engagement opportunity as well. We've established a project website. We've had at least over 2,700 unique visits, just tracking those that are those participants that are coming in, filling out surveys, filling out map.social, filling out any specific comments or questions that they may have through our different surveys. We did have over 403 unique points created on map.social, which is an online tool that allows people to drop in and create their own maps, identify their own issues or opportunities using an engaging tool that's online. And as I mentioned, that up to this point, so this is just a very brief summary of all the outreach that was conducted. There's a much more thorough summary of outreach that's included in the existing conditions report that we presented, I think over a year ago. But that's something that's available on the town's website. If somebody has more specific questions, they're able to look at it either on the town's website or on our project website. And we'll continue to have all these documents available on our project website throughout the adoption process and presentation process of this project. There's a place now where if you're online and you're reviewing the document as it is in its current form, they're able to fill out a questionnaire just to let us know. Maybe they have a specific question about something on page 15. Maybe they have a broader question about what they'd like to see, discussed in the plan, and that'll continue to be up there as we move through the next few weeks or at least the next few months of review. This is just an establishment of the existing land use. This reflects land use as of May 2020. We also have zoning as of March 2020. It also shows the overlays, which are the airport overlay, AOA, AOB, and then the transit-oriented development. We'll talk a little bit more about the airport overlay in a very specific section inside of the land use considerations. And then there's a snapshot of some of the demographics as it relates to Morrisville and how that might impact some of our land use plan recommendations. So it talks about population, age, race and ethnicity. There's some employment numbers in here, so total employment, what do the housing stocks look like, what's the housing type in Morrisville. And again, a more detailed report exists inside the existing conditions report and the trends and influences report that we had prepared over a year ago. Again, something that's available, so if someone wants a little bit more information, it's out there. Otherwise, this is meant to be a snapshot inside this document. So as I had mentioned, the vision and goals, I know we went through this in a very detailed fashion. We had the vision up on the screen and kind of walked through that with town council. And then from there, we had established 8 key goals that we want to make sure that this land use plan is trying to accomplish. And those 8 key goals are broken out into really a couple of different sectors that we're hoping to address as we started to look at the land use plan itself, but also those land use considerations. That included make sure that we build upon Morrisville's unique character and history, so that's goal number 1. Goal number 2 is to strategically manage and promote development that's fiscally responsible, so making sure that the land uses that we propose are within or in alignment to, what it would actually be feasibly to be built out. Is it a responsible land use for the town moving forward? Is it something that as you work with maybe future developers, it's in your best interest? Goal number 3 is to preserve and enhance the diversity, quality, and character, safety, and affordability and appeal of Morrisville's housing. Housing was a big discussion throughout this project, and I believe it will continue to be a very important issue, not just in Morrisville, but in that triangle region. So making sure that that's something this goal is striving for and that we address this throughout the plan is an important aspect. Goal number 4, promote innovative and healthy commercial, office, and industrial areas that serve not just the residents, but also establish an employment base, continue to grow it. You want to strengthen Morrisville's tax base, but also make sure that it's balanced with the residential neighborhood quality that you expect. Goal number 5, establish a vibrant mixed-use town center that transforms Morrisville historic core into an exciting pedestrian-friendly an area. And again, as we get into the sub-area, it's obviously a radically different or a big departure from what's currently there now. And I think as we started to visualize what this could look like and again how these connections would happen, you can see how over time or through different phases that town center goal is very achievable, but there's sort of an order to or direction to move in, and that's something that we identify within the sub area. Goal number 6, strengthen the relationship between land use and transportation. I think that was something that from the beginning was made very clear. At that time, the transportation plan was being prepared, and we know how important it is that land use and transportation continue to work with one another. One doesn't drive the other. They really do need to work hand in hand for those to be successful, and both the transportation supports the land use, and that the land uses are not impacted by what kinds of transportation connections or traffic-related issues there might be. Goal number 7, continue to support and provide high-quality public services, including municipal emergency responses, public safety, et cetera. And again, I think this is just something that people have come to expect in Morrisville, and we know that that's very important to them, that these services continue to be of the quality that they know is possible in the town. And so just making sure that as we move forward, that the growth and the improvements that come in aren't impending or aren't creating conflicts with the level of services that everybody wants. And then goal number 8, protect and promote Morrisville's unique and sensitive environmental assets, become a recognized community for sustainability and resiliency. There's a couple of sections coming up where we really do speak to this to the best that we can inside the land use plan, and just making sure that, as this area does continue to grow, there's specific assets in the community that, many people have voiced their opinion about it being preserved or that it being maintained, and that's something that you're going to want to consider as new development occurs. So Chapter 4. So this is the land use plan itself. This establishes the 13 land use designations that'll make up Let me go back. The 13 land use designations that'll make up the actual land use map itself. That's on page 22. Those land use designations are ones that I think, again, we have presented this to PZB, worked through this with town staff, have worked even through this with town council. So again, I'm hoping that this is something that you recognize. We had received feedback in our previous discussions and incorporated revisions that we thought were appropriate or necessary. So in that, we've broken this map down, if you recall, last time we met, into 6 different sectors and just kind of walked through what land uses were appropriate, but ultimately these were the 13 that we came to. Like Brad said, I'm sure there may be questions on this, so there might be things that we want to come back to and talk to this in more detail. One of the most notable changes from the previous land use plan is that we identify specific uses that are appropriate within the sub-areas. So within TOD East, what's appropriate within the McCrimmon's extension, and what's appropriate within the town center. The primary uses in the TOD East are transit-oriented development. The primary uses within the McCrimmon's extension is that business activity center, which accommodates a wide variety of uses. The primary uses that we show in that town center are town center related uses such as commercial, office. There's some residential components, entertainment, cultural, all the types of uses that really do lead to the type of downtown that you'd like to see in Morrisville. What I'll do is I'll go through these, and there's quite a bit of information on each one of these, but the goal of each one of these pages as we go through talking about low density residential or medium density, each of these components, it's broken up into a couple of pieces. So there's the character description itself. What is this use trying to accomplish? What's the appropriate uses within this designation, so those preferred uses. In this instance, in low density residential, single family detached homes are the most appropriate uses. Some of the key considerations include diversity or diversifying the affordable housing types, explore single family condominium development. Other considerations such as capitalize on the design flexibility of larger lots that offer incentivizing the integration of existing trees into the home's landscape. So again, that goes back to some of that preservation of the tree canopy or environmental sensitive areas that are very important to the town. And then that the alterations or additions to historic homes should enhance or maintain rather than detract from the original architecture character. So each one of these land use designations that we go through will have some photo examples of what ultimately this area should look like as it develops over time. Sort of an aerial photo to give you a sense at a larger scale of what this might look like, preferred uses and key considerations. The next land use designation is the medium density residential. The preferred uses in medium density residential are single family detached homes and single family attached homes. So you can see in the options or in the examples that we show above, there are traditional single family homes that are attached. There are some that are more like townhomes or row homes, which are a little bit more of a denser type, have different setback requirements, accommodate a little bit more or more units than a single family detached development might. Some of the key considerations are to offset loss of natural green space by integrating small parks and trails into the neighborhoods. Again, I think as some of these areas start to redevelop or improve over time, those are the types of considerations that people would like to see in these neighborhoods or would like to continue to see get built out in adjacent neighborhoods. Continue to allow accessory dwelling units to seek creative ways to minimize their visual impact on narrower, medium density residential lots. Accessory dwelling units are definitely a discussion point in terms of providing additional housing options in any community. And then providing incentives for stormwater features with benches, interpretive signage, and trails to maximize the benefits to a community. All right, I don't know if there's a way for me to click forward. I'll keep trying this. I don't know what the issue might be. High density residential. So the preferred uses in high density residential are small lot, single family detached homes, single family attached homes, multifamily residential, and then senior living and congregate care. So this is where we're starting to get into a much denser model type. You can see from the aerial, several units on a block face. It's a more contiguous design. Some of these might be walk-ups. I think in the graphic that's shown below, you're encouraging parking to be located away from these primary streets because you're going to have some of these parking fields or parking lots. Some of the key considerations encourage the integration of structured parking, wrapped with multifamily units to minimize the use and visual impact of large surface parking lots. Encourage the inclusion of workforce and affordable housing units within multifamily projects whenever practical. Require well-lit parking lots. Promote the use of rooftop decks and terraces that provide additional outdoor space for multifamily residential. And then, just considering a menu of different design elements for facades facing the public rights-of-way that add visual interest to multifamily building appearances. So you get a little bit of a breakup. I think this image that's at the top is a good example of providing some step back on the building, a variation of the materials and the style and how it's applied to the overall structure. And then that graphic at the bottom that has the different color facades is a good example. All right, I'll remember to click earlier. Neighborhood Activity Center. Let's go back. Well, I'm going to talk about this and then I'll go back. So Business Activity Center, preferred uses are commercial, retail, and service, restaurants, cultural uses, lodging and hospitality, office, R&D and life sciences, multifamily residential, mixed-use development, and institutional and civic. Some of the key considerations for this land use designation, the Business Activity Center, are continuing to include shared parking as a key strategy, ensure that transit infrastructure is well integrated into the employment nodes, continue to allow flexibility in the required parking if the uses are within close range to transit stops, discourage large, expansive single-use office parks by dispersing them amongst other uses as smaller developments, utilize the Extension Sub-Area Plan for guidance on enhanced design standards for the BAC, the Business Activity Center, And then just to continue the inclusion of life science uses, if certain design characteristics can be met, orienting the office and other functions with larger windows towards the front, that type of design. Just going back real quick, the regional activity center would include preferred uses such as office, institutional and civic uses, commercial, retail, services, restaurants, entertainment and cultural uses, lodging and hospitality, multifamily residential, and then mixed-use development. So quite a few uses that are appropriate in this specific land use designation. Some of the key considerations that we want to be making sure that we're including are allowing the integration of prominent visual landmarks like sculptures and ornament structures near the corners. These are some key gateways that will enhance Morrisville's image and identity. Encourage large sidewalks that can accommodate outdoor dining and seating. Encourage infill development of underutilized parking lots and existing regional activity centers. Encourage the use of on-street parking where appropriate. Utilize transitional elements between the park or the public realm of the shopping area and the private realm of the adjacent residential areas. And then continue to bury utility lines underground where practicable for improved aesthetics and resiliency against severe weather. General commercial. So general commercial centers, General commercial centers would include preferred uses such as commercial retail and service, restaurants, entertainment and cultural, lodging and hospitality, office, multifamily residential, mixed-use development, and then institutional and civic. Some of the key considerations for the general commercial area are providing ample pedestrian connectivity between lodging and retail and service uses, continue to discourage buildings from orienting those large blank walls toward the primary streets, continue to place building entrances closest to the street, promote the use of vertical gardens, masonry walls, and artwork to creatively conceal blank walls and utility areas, and then promote high-quality architectural design and building materials just throughout this area. The next land use designation is the town center designation. Preferred uses here are commercial, retail, and service, restaurants, entertainment and cultural, office, single-family attached homes, multifamily residential, mixed-use development, parks and open space, and institutional and civic. Again, we'll talk about this one a little bit more in detail when we get to the sub-areas. This is a reposition of the town center as a vibrant destination by attracting entertainment uses, restaurants, and other businesses that contribute to nightlife and activity. Require all off-street parking to be side or to the rear of the building. Again, similar to some of the previous ones, require large sidewalks along the main street to support both pedestrian and sidewalk seating. Pedestrians and sidewalk seating. Maintain the design standards prescribed for the areas within the 2007 Town Center Plan. Require building facades along the main street to vary in architectural style, which is something that we show a little bit in the graphic. And then just integrating benches, street art, and decorative lighting along the main street to improve the overall pedestrian experience. Some other town center considerations: multifamily uses are to be only allowed where they're not visible from the street, so there might be some setback from some of the primary streets. Office land use designation, the preferred uses would be office parks and corporate headquarters, research and development companies, emerging technology facilities, compatible commercial retail and service uses, lodging and hospitality, and then that R&D / life sciences. So key considerations: encourage diverse architecture styles, ensure that common open spaces like plazas or public seating areas are easily accessible and placed in locations with high pedestrian activity and visibility. The use of structured or shared parking is encouraged as a way of minimizing that large, expansive asphalt or parking lot fields that we see in some of these developments, and then ensuring that R&D / life science uses orient office and other functions compatible with large windows. So similar like we talked about before, and that maybe the lab or production spaces be towards some of the less visible areas of the development. Promote office modernization where appropriate to retrofit offices is also a consideration. Industrial, preferred uses, heavy industrial operations such as manufacturing, light industrial operations such as distribution, wholesale and warehousing, research facilities, flex spaces, business and industrial parks, telecommunication facilities, compatible commercial retail services, and then R&D, life sciences. And similar to some of the other development or land use designations that we talked about, you want to orient the company offices with the larger windows towards the primary street, minimizing some of those industrial uses where you're adjacent to a key street or a highly visible corridor. Continue to require ample buffering and landscaping to reduce the impacts on neighboring non-industrial uses. With proper landscape buffers in mind, ensure that nearby retail and restaurants are well connected to the industrial uses. This would capture some of those lunch type crowds. People may even want to be able to walk to those. And then heavy industrial uses and industrial uses with significant outdoor storage should be located along less visible collector roads. Institutional would include government buildings and offices, emergency response facilities, utilities, community facilities including senior centers, schools and higher education facilities, and then places of worship. Some key considerations here: when practical, off-street parking should be oriented to the side or the rear of the buildings. That can sometimes be a challenge, but certainly something to strive for in this land use designation. Work with religious organizations to help coordinate their respective expansion plans, ensure that impacts to surrounding uses are mitigated. Identify potential sites for long-term expansion of community facilities and related infrastructures that will be necessary to maintain that quality of service and amenities for Morrisville. And then continue to coordinate with the Wake County Public School systems to ensure a high-quality education services for Morrisville students. This should include considering potential locations for new schools and exploring innovative alternatives such as adaptive reuse. The next land use designation is the transit-oriented development. This would include preferred uses such as urban townhomes, multifamily residential, commercial retail and service, restaurants, cultural, institutional and civic uses, and then mixed-use development. So these graphics really show the scale at which this TOD development needs to be or would be built out. You need to allow for appropriate mix of uses that create an active district oriented to planned and existing public transit options. Want to work with property owners and agencies to prepare potential transit-oriented development sites for long-term redevelopment, which is something we talk about a little bit in the TOD East project. Transit-oriented development should consist of short blocks, connected street grids, where practicable, to enhance the pedestrian circulation, and then require a prominent and active green space or plaza in each transit-oriented development node to balance surrounding development and intensity. So as these areas start to develop, you want to make sure that you're providing those open spaces and those opportunities for people to gather in a little bit more of a softer space. And then the last land use designation that we're going to talk about is the parks, greenways, open space. Preferred uses here are passive spaces like parks and open spaces, greenways, natural resource protection and conservation areas, and then stormwater facilities. And just showing kind of the wide variety of both active and passive open spaces to be considered. You're going to want to make sure that these are coordinated with the Parks and Rec Comprehensive Master Plan, as well as the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, just making sure that they're in accordance to what the recommendations are there. Strictly preserve the environmental assets within these areas, and then also work with property owners and the development community to identify preferred areas that may be suitable for future public and private parks or green space. So Chapter 5 are using the land use plan as a guide. Chapter 5 provides 4 areas of land use consideration. So we talk about development and regulatory considerations. We talk about community facilities and infrastructure considerations. There's environmental features and open space considerations. And then the last section is this image and identity consideration. And in each one of these, they're even broken out into subsections where we're trying to drive into specific areas of concern. So for development and regulatory considerations, as the land use plan is starting to guide what the land use policies need to be, there will need to be some types of amendments or adjustments to the UDO. There might be some adjustments that need to happen to specific regulations. This also takes into consideration the land availability. Utilizing or knowing that over the past 20 years, Morrisville has been growing rapidly and will continue to grow at a fast pace. Identifying these undeveloped land areas and putting together not only the land use plan, but some specific recommendations about uses that are appropriate here are critical. And then we talk about some of those key considerations as well. Maintain close coordination with property owners, make sure that these undeveloped lands are on track for what these areas should redevelop as based on the plan here that we're talking about. And then carefully steer infill development in a way that minimizes the impacts on surrounding uses and does not overburden critical infrastructure. Page 40 talks about the RDU and airport overlay. So the RDU and airport overlay are one of the key areas that we wanted to come back and provide a little bit more detail on. And I think that's something that we'll do in the Q&A. But just to discuss right now, what we're talking about is based on the graphic that's on the right, and just so I can make this as clear as possible. Currently, the airport overlay this is AOA, which is yellow, and then there's airport overlay AOB, which is what's shown in blue right now. And our recommendation is to extend the airport overlay AOB into this orange. So now the blue and the orange would all be AOB. So that is a shift from what the overlay currently is identified as. And the reason that we're making that shift is by supplanting those portions of the UDO's AOA district with AOB, it would allow uses such as multifamily residential, schools, other uses that currently are not something that the town's able to plan for in these areas. So using this as a guide and using these adjustments to the airport overlay, some of the subsequent plans, specifically the McCrimmon's extension sub-area, provides visually and then programmatically what could happen in these areas based on that shift in policy. So some of those key considerations are going to be updating the standards and the boundaries of the airport overlay, updating the standards of the airport overlay to identify and address potential hazards and nuisances, just making sure that the site designs are consistent with what we ultimately expect in this area, and then just considering noise attenuation, noise safety concerns that are going to have to be incorporated into these future developments. Housing affordability. This is built out of a lot of the recommendations that come from the 2019 Affordable Housing Plan that was prepared by the town. Just incorporating some of those recommendations, some of the key considerations that are coming out of that are to pursue the 3 key actions from the affordable housing identified in the 2019 Affordable Housing Plan. Encourage and incentivize the development of affordable housing in Morrisville with an emphasis on workforce housing. Coordinate with regional partners to track trends related to housing affordability, identify some best practices to increase the affordable options in Morrisville. And then one of the last ones is just coordinate with major employers, both in Morrisville but also in neighboring communities, to survey employers on preferred housing types and options that may attract them to Morrisville. As I had mentioned, that much of what we've identified here in the land use plan may impact or may require amendments to the UDO. So one of the things that we recommend as a key consideration is to review and update the town's UDO and the various development controls to align with the Morrisville land use plan. It's a very common practice that once you update the land use plan, you're going to want to go through that UDO review process and make those adjustments as needed. And then just regularly reviewing the UDO to ensure that it is consistent with the town's vision, that's achieving the goals that we've identified in here, and then closely review development applications and proposed rezonings with the land use plan recommendations in mind. So it's important that this group, PZB, town staff are using this document as a checkpoint when everybody comes in for a redevelopment or an infill project, or whatever it might be related to either land use or zoning. Some of the design principles that we provided recommendations for are land use, just showing how, what's a good example, a preferred example of a well-connected development with diverse mix of uses, which is on the top, and then the not preferred, sometimes more traditional inline development. You want to see, these different land uses intermix with one another, and then where appropriate, providing the connections that are needed, but also kind of spacing things out, giving good proximity along major roads, offsetting the parking, those types of things. Site design and parking, just showing some of the preferred options. So some of the preferred options for site design and building locations and parking, having the buildings fronting the main roads, parking is located in the back. We're trying to avoid this type of development where, the parking is wrapped around each building and it's what you primarily see from the road. Just doesn't really set up the environment that you're trying to set up along some of your key corridors. Just providing a street connectivity that's well connected. So the green on top is an example of a well-connected development. All the streets are aligned with one another. Trying to avoid some of the subdivisions that might have more cul-de-sacs, more separated pods. It's tough to walk through these communities and stay connected to adjacent neighborhoods. Making sure that the setbacks are in line with what you're trying to achieve. So the top photo is a good example of has a strong entrance into the building. It's adjacent to the public sidewalk, whereas this development is significantly set back. It's not really clear what the primary entrance is. It's not even facing the main road, and it's not an attractive kind of or pedestrian-friendly connection. Preserving that open space and landscaping, make sure that the lush landscaping, the existing landscaping that is there, is integrated into future redevelopments. Not looking at something like this one below where that's an excessive clearing of trees, really doesn't take into consideration the existing landscape that was there. Definitely something that you'd want to avoid and build into the code as possible. And we talked a little bit about buffering between industrial uses and residential uses. So just anywhere where there might be incompatible land uses, making sure that they're properly screened, properly buffered. You want to mitigate those challenges that can arise from uses such as this, where it might be a short fence or really no buffer provided at all. These two uses are definitely in conflict with one another. Drive-throughs, there's some really creative designs for drive-throughs and how they can be, still buildings that hold a corner and have prominent structures, have a nice little plaza space, aren't completely wrapped by parking and aren't completely wrapped by the drive aisles, as where there's this more traditional double drive-through, parking, no matter what, you have to cross a main way to get to it, where it's possible to minimize or mitigate those types of development. Screening utilities is definitely a design consideration. I think the example above is a great example of how you can use, a garden wall or some terracing or some wood fences that properly screen those utilities but still allow for access into them. Where these utility boxes down below are highly visible, not very attractive from the main road. And then just working with topography. Some buildings that have a walkout, this is a great example of from the front, this is what the building looks like. It appears to, not be trying to regrade this entire site. It's working with the grade, whereas the example below required a pretty substantial retaining wall. It's just starting to set up these like ladder developments that you definitely want to avoid in a community that has to deal with so much grade change. Community facilities and infrastructure considerations. Some of the main things that we're talking about here is as the community continues to grow, just making sure that you're keeping in mind the maintenance and the upkeep of these community facilities. We're not recommending several new community facilities by any means. A lot of this is just making sure that you're able to, like I said, maintain that level of quality and that level of service that people have come to expect in Morrisville. Coordinating with your partner service providers and community facilities to review some of their long-term needs, what your needs might be, how those are going to align, making sure that they're aware of your development plans. This land use plan is a good example of a document that they should be very aware of as you start to move forward. And then just account for the changing demographics and the increasing diversity of Morrisville's residents when you're considering new or expanded facilities, services, and amenities. Public education is something that we talked about throughout the entire scope of the project, and it was something that was considered as we were looking at the land use plan and we're looking at the types of uses that are appropriate for the community. Trying to wait for this to load up. Public education. So some of the key considerations are to continue to proactively work with Wake County Public School System to identify potential sites or opportunities for new schools in Morrisville, specifically middle school and high school facilities, and then just collaborating with Wake County Public School System and RDU to consider if available properties within the airport overlay could meet the necessary design standards for district schools. Just understanding the balance between that shared infrastructure so that water and sewer services within Morrisville that are provided by the town of Cary through a shared use agreement are able to meet the capacity. You want to monitor that capacity over time, make sure the overall quality isn't compromised, and as new development comes online, that they're able to accommodate that new development, and then coordinate with the town of Cary to partake in their reclaimed water program was one of our recommendations. The transportation infrastructure, again, building off of a lot of what's already in the town's transportation or comprehensive transportation plan. Like I'd mentioned before, it's critical that the land use decisions around future transit stations serve to support the ridership and overall system viability. Also making sure that the land use recommendations that are provided inside of this plan are coinciding with the transportation improvements that have already been recommended, and making sure that those time out with one another. And then just coordinating with key partners such as North Carolina Department of Transportation, RDU, or key employers to achieve a balance between continued development and those necessary transportation infrastructure projects that will ensure the safe and efficient mobility in Morrisville. Roadway network, so a lot of this has to do with transportation-related issues. So making sure that the roadway network improvements and extensions to increase mobility and accessibility in Morrisville continue to happen. We want to rely, like I'd mentioned already before, but aligning those roadway improvements with future redevelopment efforts to balance the growth and mobility in the community, so they sort of coincide with one another. NC 54 Chapel Hill Road, just continuing to work with North Carolina to explore and implement long-term improvements to NC 54. And then public transit, just working with regional partners to support the proposed bus rapid transit network along NC 54, knowing that some of the developments that we're recommending could greatly be supported by that type of infrastructure and transit put into place. And then continue to work with regional partners in exploring other public transit options that would benefit Morrisville residents, businesses, and employers. And then some of the pedestrian mobility considerations would be to continue to require sidewalks and encourage trail connections to adjacent areas as development occurs. We recommend that you review the town's UDO to ensure sidewalk standards and requirements are consistent with national best practices, including limits on biparcel sidewalk construction and phased residential developments, really encouraging that sidewalks get put in all at once so you don't have those gaps that can occur. The research triangle, Morrisville is strategically located in the research triangle and has already been benefiting from being a part of that overall network. But just regularly coordinating and meeting with the RTP leadership to discuss planned projects and new developments that may impact Morrisville is something that you're going to want to continue to do. It's a key consideration. Work with RTP leadership and North Carolina Department of Transportation to consider how continued development in RTP may impact traffic along major transportation corridors. That would include along NC 54 and Davis Drive, and then also coordinating with the RTP leadership and top employers to identify workforce housing needs that should be targeted as part of future residential development in Morrisville. Again, that's something that we've talked about, that workforce housing and where that's going to be located and how that's going to be supported. The Raleigh-Durham International Airport. So RDU plays a key role in some of the development that's already occurred around that eastern edge of Morrisville. And one of the things that we talk about is just maintain a strong partnership with RDU and continuing to evaluate some of the redevelopments that are going to happen around that airport area, knowing that cooperative and collaborative point of view is helpful. Also balance the community aspirations and needs with the considerations for the safety and efficiency of airport operations in the area. And then identify potential partnership opportunities with RDU, including considerations for how to continue development in adjacent areas could impact both organizations. Environmental features and open space considerations. So some of those, the environmental features and open space considerations include, a lot of different policies that are related to the preservation of areas that are critically sensitive, some of the tree canopy and green foliage and all the forested areas and natural areas that make up some of the areas of the town, and just making sure that as development occurs, that these areas are considered for either preservation or that you're able to work around what that might look like.
Nick, if you're having a lot of trouble, let me know. We can switch to another document.
Yeah, I wonder if I should just present on mine.
If you just
it's screen share.
Definitely takes. Yeah, it definitely takes like 15 seconds to advance each slide.
Yeah, it's a serious delay.
Or if it's something on your end that you're able to advance when I'm done.
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen.
Okay. Okay. So green space preservation, is that showing up?
I believe so, yep. Just I can go into full screen mode.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody can see it. So for green space preservation, one of the key aspects here we were talking about before and what we've shown here is this concept of conservation design. So there's different aspects of how redevelopment could occur. There could be conventional sprawl, or there could be a more conservation development approach. Both of these graphics accommodate 32 homes, but what they're doing is the way that they're siting these buildings and the overall lot area for each site is significantly different than conservation design. So you're able to offset a lot of that open space, maintain what might be some wooded areas or some creeks that you can incorporate into the overall design, a lot more spaces for trails and passive open space. So just as a concept, it shows a different way to develop, a new subdivision that meets the same dwelling unit count, but preserves and enhances what the overall design and character could be. Public parks and open space. So this one's talking about the public components. We as a consideration, utilize the Parks and Recreation Master Plan as a primary resource to guide the development in future parks and facilities, to align with future development with parks and recreation needs. So just knowing that these two documents will need to talk to each other. The land uses that we recommend will need to align with what the Parks and Recreation Master Plan identifies as future locations. And then also just in accordance with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan to target 135 acres of new parkland by 2028, or the standard of 9.6 acres per 1,000 residents overall. So just making sure that the parks that are provided are in alignment with what best practices are for the residential development that exists in the town. On the other side of this, so private parks and open space, this is identifying spaces such as, like the private parks, private open space is a part of, a redevelopment or a subdivision, and then also the golf course to the south. And some of the key considerations are to continue to work with neighborhoods and homeowner associations to encourage the development and maintenance of private parks and open spaces, work with private organizations on an as-needed basis to explore the potential converting of private parks and open spaces to public amenities, and then just exploring new greenway and trail projects that would link public parks and amenities to private parks and amenities. This was an interesting study that we had conducted using some of the underlying data that we had for tree canopy. So using data provided by the National Land Cover Database and kind of working with town staff to zero in and make this more site-specific, we're able to complete a tree canopy density map. So this map just shows where there's a dense tree canopy that already exists in Morrisville. And I think just as a key consideration, you want to continue to strictly apply local regulations for tree protection and make sure that you're able to maintain that tree canopy where it's appropriate as new development occurs. Explore incentives to encourage developers to preserve trees on their property above those required by the town's UDO. So there's different mechanisms you could put in place to accomplish that. And then consider programs to replace trees that are removed elsewhere on site or within the community and seek long-term growth of the tree canopy. So looking at the water bodies and floodplains within Morrisville, some of the key considerations there are to review and update regulations related to the water bodies and floodplains, to consider additional protections that should be incorporated as part of the site design and review process. We want to discourage the redevelopment or development in floodplains and water recharge areas, and then continue to work with regional and state partners to protect the health of watersheds and take part in cooperative initiatives. Then some of the multi-use paths that are identified on the map to the right. So we're identifying what have already been completed, which are the light green lines. But the dotted lines are proposed multi-use paths, which are dotted in green, and then planned multi-use paths, which are dotted in sort of a magenta. And just seeing that this overall network is able to be connected in the future really starts to close a bunch of loops and provide connections throughout the town, and then it'll start providing connections into surrounding communities that also have significant trail opportunities in their community. But continue to identify and update an inventory of preferred multi-use path connections. So that's something that as development occurs, that might change, that might shift. So you want to make sure that this plan is adapting to that. Work with property owners to consider new multi-use path extensions on existing developments, and then coordinate with neighboring communities and regional partners to identify where some of these potential connections between adjacent areas could occur, especially when you're looking at like a regional greenway and multi-use path trail system. The last section is the image and identity section, and in here we're just talking about some of the community character and the visibility and historic preservation components of the plan. Just providing some key recommendations about, how would you or how can you improve or maintain the character of the community? How can you increase the visibility of the community? And then, where there's historic preservation opportunities, what are some of those steps that are appropriate to either incorporate those into new developments or make sure that they're preserved for, future Morrisville residents? Moving through a branding strategy, incorporating the Morrisville brand as part of the public improvements throughout the community. This is something that you do already, but just continuing to do that as roadways are improved, or if there's any other innovative application about how this brand could be moved throughout, all improvements in the community is something that you should consider. Meet with neighborhood associations and major employers and other organizations to explore ways that the Morrisville brand can be incorporated as part of a private improvement. Again, as anything is done to improve the overall character of the community, making sure that it's tied back to the overall Morrisville brand is important. And then looking at the gateways and entrances into the community, you want to continue the gateway signage projects to identify locations for new high visibility signs and vibrant gateways, marking the entrance into Morrisville. You want to update and expand the existing wayfinding signs to include key destinations throughout the community, and then just coordinating with DOT and regional partners to seek updated interstate signs that clearly mark Morrisville's location, incorporating some of your wayfinding. Community diversity, just strive to be considerate of the needs of all residents and seek to understand how diversity will impact future land use decisions, explore new amenities and services and programs that may grow in demand as the community continues to diversify, and then work with property owners and developers to consider the town's growing diversity as part of the use, design, and construction of future projects. The town center and community spaces, we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail when I get to the sub-areas, but just focusing on creating a community space and a unique destination that'll foster that sense of place and community pride. There are already components of that in the community, but just continuing to do that as you are focusing in on where redevelopment might occur. Prioritize that town center project to establish a significant focal point for the Morrisville community, and then continue to require the incorporation of parks, open spaces, public plazas, gathering spaces, and future commercial and mixed-use development, making sure that as part of this future land use plan, those are the types of amenities that people are expecting to see in any type of redevelopment project. And then looking at the Superfund site, the Coppers Company Inc. Superfund site, and just making sure that you actively seek development of the Superfund site as a transit-oriented development. There's plans that are already out there about what this could look like. You want to coordinate with the property owners and just make sure that the mitigation factors that need to be considered are considered, and that the long-term redevelopment options are something that are a part of the town's future planning efforts. So the sub-areas, in many respects, the sub-areas are part of a discussion that we've had in the past where we talked about the programming, but here's where we take the program that we talked about before, the two different alternatives, if you remember, for each one of these sub-areas, for TOD East, the McCrimmon's Extension, and the Town Center, and we moved forward with the preferred land use program based on recommendations from town staff, PZB, as well as town council, and established this sub-area plan section of the plan. The first one that we'll talk about is the TOD East. We provide a brief description of what we're trying to accomplish and what the overall goal is of the TOD East, and then using the land use program, which was refined based on feedback that we received from all these different groups. We came to 4 specific uses that would be appropriate within this TOD established area, or this TOD established district, and it was mixed-use multifamily, mixed-use office, Wake Tech connection, and then open space. So the mixed-use office is primarily located to the east of the TOD east site, and then a mixed-use multifamily use is really primarily along Chapel Hill, NC 54, and where that McCrimmon's flyover exists. There's also an incorporation of open space, which is at the heart of the TOD East, and then there's a connection that'll be made to Wake Tech connection, just making sure that whatever development occurs here, it has a clear and direct connection into that Wake Technical Community College campus. We broke down the development program to provide a 2D site plan of what this could look like, and then provide a residential land use and non-residential land use data table. And there's a lot to go over, so I'm not going to deep dive into this, and I know when we have questions in the future, we'll be able to come back to this in more detail. But again, just using the land use program, we developed a concept of what this could look like. By no means is this exactly what would be built, but it gives you a sense of scale. It gives you a sense of the types of uses and products that would be appropriate here, how they should be cited using the design parameters that we put inside the land use consideration section of the land use plan, and then start to report out what some of those building footprint square footages would look like, what the total building area would be, what the floor height should be, and then total parking, what's being provided, and then how that might impact either UDO recommendations or regulations, or how that might impact as new development starts to get recommended here. This is the guide that you want to use. This is the tool you can say, this is the direction we'd like this area to go. And this is a visualization of what that sub-area could look like if it were to redevelop. Again, it's showing this mixed-use component. So coming off of Chapel Hill or NC 54, there's a primary road, a connector that would connect into a roundabout, and this really becomes like the core area. So you have mixed-use development, so you have commercial services on the ground floor, residential components on the top. This is supported by parking decks. We show a couple different options, how it would be supported by a parking deck, how it could be supported by larger surface areas. There's also some complementary office uses on the upper floor of some of these commercial services. And then as it transitions into more of a business park feel or an industrial feel to the east, it's more of an office complex or an office design with some commercial components at the ground floors that would support not just these office uses, but anybody that might live in this area or be connecting to the Wake Tech campus. The McCrimmons Extension subarea, same thing, using that land use program that we talked about in the past, we established a couple of different uses that would be appropriate here and then broke them out into almost like phases, or you can almost call them like development pods, looking at the scale of the site. Uses that are appropriate here are multifamily, commercial and office, industrial and office, corporate office, office and multifamily, sports complex, and open space. And again, using the feedback from PZB and Town Council, we tried to provide a variety of development types that would be appropriate here. Where is multifamily being located and what does that look like? What type of multifamily do we want to see? Does multifamily need to incorporate some type of mixed-use component? How are offices located here and how are they sited? And what are the uses that are appropriate around them? How do we incorporate open space throughout this entire development? And when I say development, I mean these are multiple projects over time. There's no way that this would all develop in one go. You can even see here in the development program, as we break it down, showing where the sidewalks might exist, showing how parking is being located, where buildings are being oriented towards the street. We even get to the point of showing like the trees and the landscaping and making sure that that's complementary to the type of character, the type of style that people want to see in the commercial districts and in the residential district. And then just providing connections. So up to the north, we provide like a trailhead connection, a little bit easier to see on the 3D rendering. Similar to TOD East, we break out this report, this data table, and kind of report out what the overall building square footages could be, both by square foot or by building, but also by total area. We try to give a little bit of program for what building heights are appropriate where, and then how many total units you would be reporting out. Again, this is very conceptual. Although it looks somewhat detailed, this is just to show what the programs could be if this was to redevelop. And then this 3D visualization that breaks out all these different sections, and you can see, how much multifamily or how much commercial or how much office we're talking about. To the west here, we're showing industrial uses that are complementary to the industrial uses that are along International Drive. Along Airport Boulevard, there's some commercial options to take advantage of that visibility option. But then as you transition along McCrimmons Drive, there's a wide variety of use types that we're recommending. There's multifamily, standalone multifamily that's adjacent to McCrimmons Parkway with parking to the rear. There's some multifamily that's offset from the overall site, kind of deeper back in, could incorporate its own plaza space, open space connections. You have these office components or these business park components. Could be different types of office spaces or different types of innovation spaces. But inside of those, we're trying to incorporate some commercial pockets, commercial nodes, so people that are working here, don't have to leave this area to go get a bite to eat, or, if there's some retail or service uses that are appropriate. As we transition down the corridor, you have the existing Wake Tech Competition Center being kind of integrated into this overall redevelopment option, and then some commercial, larger big box. As we transition down, that lighter purple is like a hospitality or lodging option. And then again, you just see the different commercial types, how this median will design over time and how these uses could be fronted along McCrimmons Extension. Oh, and one other thing. So up here, we just show a public green space, a large open space that could connect into, a greenway, which is something that we think would be a great benefit, a great asset to this area. The last sub-area is the town center. The appropriate mixes here, and this one I know we've talked about in a lot more detail. Appropriate mixes here are mixed use, mixed residential, commercial, single-family neighborhood, institutional, public gathering spaces, and open space. So this looks very similar in concept to what we had talked about in the past and what we had presented almost a year ago when we talked in detail about the town center. Just providing a little bit more detail based on those web scenes that we had talked about, what the report outs are, what the overall square footages would be, And again, what types of uses are appropriate where. Looking at things like mixed use along Carolina and along Fox Club Drive. This future connection that would punch all the way through up to this big open space. There'd be some institutional uses that would be appropriate to kind of build off of some of the already civic uses that are here along Town Hall Drive. And then as you transition to the east of Church Street, there's some lodging opportunities, commercial opportunities, maybe some mixed use that could still hold these corners, and then an institutional use also, up closer to where it drops off towards the floodplain and the tree canopy to the east. And then this is that graphic that we had talked about, again, about a year ago, and it just shows that denser option, which shows, 4-story buildings, 3-story buildings in some areas, and what that step up would look like along the Carolina Street corridor, that pedestrian environment that we're trying to create, access to this large park space that's in the heart of the town center, and then all these adjacent uses that'll transition into the surrounding neighborhoods. So you have some single-family attached that'll transition and complement some of the single-family attached and multifamily to the north, and some of the residential units or residential developments to the north as well. This is just some of the snapshots, that immersive 3D model that we did the walkthrough, just showing you what really got us to that ultimate concept. You can see the type of environment that we're talking about here, and if it is to develop this way, you have a 4-story building, commercial and services, and some different uses at the ground floor with residential above. A lot of different variation on the building types would be encouraged here. It doesn't all have to look like one structure or one building type. And then just an overview of what that could look like if it was to develop this way. The last chapter is implementation. And in this section, this is actually the only part of the plan where there's one component that still needs to be done, and I'll get to that at the very end. But the implementation section is a critical component to the success of this plan. It establishes the action plan, how you use this on a daily basis, how you're going to integrate a lot of the recommendations that we talked about into your CIP, your capital investment programs. Talks about the partnerships that need to be maintained or developed, working with Wake County, continuing to work with the town of Cary, working with Wake Technical Community College or Wake County Public School System. All these different partners are something that you need to continue this relationship and make sure that they're aware of your plan, you're aware of what they're up to and what they're planning to do, and what impact their future plans may have on you and the town of Morrisville. So just maintaining public communication. Like I said before, there was a substantial community outreach portion to this project at the very beginning and towards the middle half of this, and just maintaining that public communication moving forward and using this as a platform to continue that dialogue about how the community should develop over time and what uses are appropriate or what projects are appropriate. Just maintaining that and using that as a good starting point or continuing that is something that we recommend. And then updating the plan regularly. It doesn't have to wait every 10 or 15 years to be updated. There are incremental changes that you might want to make as things either come offline or some things are successful or something's worked. Or maybe, trends change, ideas change, making sure that this plan doesn't fall stale just because it wasn't updated. And then measuring your progress and making sure that a lot of the vision and the goals that are identified here are being accomplished, are being worked on, and that you're moving forward. There are potential funding sources out there that you'll want to use this plan for as a starting point. A lot of times when you seek public funding, one of the first things they'll ask is, what does your land use plan say? How do your residents feel about the improvement that you're going to use these funds for? If the plan is in alignment with what the funds could be used for, that makes it a lot easier for a funding source to release those dollars to the community. And then the last component that we still need to work on is this implementation action matrix. It'll identify key actions which are going to be pulled almost directly from those key considerations and be flipped into like a specific action. They almost become like checklists and, do this item, check, continue to work on this, then we need to find something that makes that actionable and something that, you can achieve over the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, however long it might take. We'll identify ease of implementation. We'll give you an idea of what it would take time-wise. Is it something you could do in less than a year or less than 2 years? Is it something that midterm it might take 2 to 5 years? Is it something that's definitely going to take more than 5 years? And using ease of implementation and that time estimate, you get a sense for what you should be trying to accomplish first. Sometimes there's low-hanging fruit. Sometimes there's something that might take 10 years, but it's really important. It's a key action. It might even be hard to do, but it's something that's got to stay on someone's radar. So it's kind of using these to guide your decision-making and what you feel like you should be tackling first or second or 50th. And like I'd already talked about, just continuing to work with your partners and identifying inside this action matrix what partners could be helpful in you accomplishing those goals. And then one of the things that we recommend is an implementation action committee. It could be a committee's responsibility, could be PZB, could be town council, it could be a standalone committee who's responsible for making sure that this action matrix is something that's on the forefront of the town's mind. So ultimately, this will get built out. Once we move through this process, we receive public feedback, we incorporate comments that we receive from PZB, we get your feedback, and we'll make sure that that all gets incorporated into this action matrix once we're where the plan needs to be. So with that, I know that was a lot, quite a bit to throw at you, and I definitely appreciate the opportunity that Town Council has given us to walk through this land use plan. I know tonight we're not taking questions, but when we do take questions, hopefully you've had a chance to review this document. Maybe some of the stuff that I talked about tonight sparked an idea or comment that you may have. But just know that we're in that portion of the project where we're looking for your feedback, and we look forward to continuing this conversation when we talk, I believe, in 2 days. So 2 days to review this document and be ready to talk about what you want to see.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Just reiterate. Just going to come back on August 27th. Talk through five. We're looking at an overview of the future land use map. We're looking at TOD East, criminal extension area, town center area, and noise overlay. We'll also have a review coming to their thoughts and input on the noise overlay. They are also a member of our technical.
Is there a lot of echo there?
I just can't hear him.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Oh, yeah.
I'm just getting feedback, so I stepped away. Sorry. So appreciate you all listening to that. I know there's a lot of reading material put on your front doorsteps recently, so a lot of that's just for background and context of the work that's been done with you all, especially prior to this plan being drafted. So with that, I think Nick and I are good for this work session.
Do you want us to send you any email thoughts of questions in advance?
That would be excellent, and I'm glad you brought that up. If there's any clarification that needs to be made about the plan prior to August 27th, please send me an email or a resource that is available whenever you need us. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can, but anything that makes the work sessions more efficient, happy to offer some clarity on some things. Also, please check out the FAQ and the key highlights document I slipped into your binders as well.
Okay. Excellent. Any questions? No, we're not getting into real questions, just anything about process and how we're coming back in 2 days.
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a question about process. So on Thursday, this is just one of 3 kind of big topics that we're going to talk about. So I'm gonna say right up front, I don't think we're going to finish the conversation on this item on Thursday night. So having said that, have you thought about how we're going to step through this and how we're going to, where are we going to start, and what topics, because you just mentioned we're going to hit those big topics that are a part of this land use plan. Are we going to start with the process to go through them as well?
Yeah, that is yeah. So we'll start with the what we're calling key policy areas, only because they have lots of ripple effects throughout the document, and so we want to ensure that those are taken care of first off, and then as we move forward, those 5, if we get through those 5 on the 27th, which I'll be very surprised if we do, but if we do and a miracle happens, then September 21st, we'll tackle all the rest of the stuff in the plan, all the other policies recommended, but we'll have some spillover time into that meeting to answer your question in case that dialogue does run longer. And of course, if we're not wrapped up by then, we could always talk about coming back to finish things up in maybe October or something like that. So.
And that's setting off another set of public input to react to what we're putting forth now.
September 21st, we'll also be bringing you some summarized public input. So right now we have an online portal. Sadly, we can't do a lot of in-person stuff like we usually do. But we do have an online portal available for folks to comment on the plan. And so what Housing League would like to do is just kind of summarize that and offer that as kind of a glimpse into what people are saying.
Okay, and will you be capturing a lot of the public input we're getting at our meetings and stuff? Because that's all land use plan.
Yes. So a lot of those same people that comments, but also the comments we're receiving will also be included in that. We're encouraging folks to funnel all their comments to this one portal so we can be concise and consistent with where we're collecting that. Although when the town clerk does receive public comments related to the land use plan, we consider those as well.
Okay, that's important to note. Go ahead.
I have two more things.
Yep.
So getting to the public input process, in the beginning of this, did we really start 2.5 years ago?
Something like that, yeah. I think March 2018 is when we started hitting the ground running.
So when we started this process, we did a lot of public outreach, and you talked about that, or Nick talked about that tonight, and a lot of that was done. It was two-way communication because you all were at events, because I was there. I saw you out there all the time with your charts and displays, and there was a lot of communication happening, a lot of back and forth, which is very helpful for us, I think, as staff and clearly for the citizens. But so to your point now, we don't have that, and I get that. I understand where we're at, but we don't have that two-sided, two-way communication. And I'm trying to figure out how we can do that. We here in the town have done some like Facebook Live Q&A kind of presentation things, and I'm just throwing this out there. I think it would. And I don't know how to do it. So, and if there's no way to do it, you can come back and tell me there's no way to do it. But I'd like you all to think about a way to get some more robust kind of engagement in this world we're living in right now. So some kind of virtual way to have that really meaningful communication. And again, that's as much as I can tell you.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with Reddit, but they do a segment called Ask Me Anything, and they have like an expert, or I'm not calling myself an expert, but somebody who knows something about something come up there and just make themselves available for general comments. And I could check with the communications department to see if that's something we could do, or Housing Levine is available to do. And
okay,
that might be helpful. Yeah.
Only because we're getting now, we've had that really robust engagement early on. And now we're in like a void right now where we're getting feedback. I'm not discounting the feedback we're getting, but I'd like to make it even more robust. So anyhow, so sorry, I'm repeating myself. So that the public input process as we're moving forward is important to me. And then I'm really grateful that we're going to hear from RDU. And have a conversation as a council with them. Another entity I think is really important and has been a focus for a lot of us, for all of us, is schools. So I'd like to have some kind of conversation with Wake County Public School System. We recently got some feedback from Betty Parker, but and as I mentioned 2 weeks ago when we were here at council, part of her input was really helpful, and the other part, quite frankly, was kind of vague. So it would be nice to have some kind of conversation with them too. So I'll just throw that out there for you all to think about, because I think that's going to be a huge topic of conversation, as it typically is and as it should be.
Yeah, we've recently talked to Betty Parker within a couple of weeks, I think, showing her the draft land use plan, just so she's aware, and she had some observations. Happy to share those with you during the work session. But
Yeah, I'd like to hear from them, though.
Oh, yeah. No, I would.
I hear you.
Absolutely, we would love. Yeah, they're limited in their availability, unfortunately, but I should say, very limited in their availability. But when they do make the time to work with us on stuff, we definitely put as much in front of them as we possibly can, and we of course will invite them to come back and talk more about it.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll recognize Councilmember Fender for questions or comments.
Thank you. I just had a couple comments, kind of continuing the conversation that Liz was talking about. First, regarding, asking for more feedback, I agree with Councilmember Johnson, because one of the things I was looking forward to before the COVID was, I know you guys had been reaching out to our HOA to schedule a meeting with our subdivision at the clubhouse, and that did not happen. So, and I don't know with how many other subdivisions that happened. So I think we're missing that piece. So I don't know if we need to do a Zoom call or something, or outside, in-person engagement. But I agree that we need to do something in place of those meetings with the HOAs that was going to occur. And then also with regards to the public school, I think it would be beneficial to have a couple other people, 2 or 3 other people in addition to Betty Parker. For example, maybe a couple of members of the school board, like Chris Haggerty or Bill Fletcher, engaged in that conversation. And also the gentleman's name that was here for the special use permit that's set right there. And I know he's Betty Parker.
Wade Martin.
Pardon?
Wade Martin.
That's it. Yeah, have him included and Marcella in that conversation, because I really think it's a collaboration. So I think multiple people from the public school system, it would be beneficial to hear from more than one person.
Sure. Yeah, I know they were here in February, I think it was, before the Education Committee. And then, of course, they were here for the special use permit. But yeah, we definitely have an open invite for them.
And just let me say one more thing, because a lot of us are having one-on-one conversations with Chris Haggerty or Marcella or whoever, and we're all hearing different things. It'd be good if we were all here together and hearing everything from the same person at the same time.
Sure.
To the amount that they're able to share, because land
Yeah.
purchase decisions are tough for them to be that open about.
Right.
I'd like to recognize our planning director, Michelle Stiegel.
Sorry, the microphone is here. So I think you've raised some good points and made some great suggestions, so we could definitely consider some of those things. But did also want to provide a little bit more information about some of the outreach that we're doing, because we do recognize that it's more difficult now with COVID, and we would love to be out there at these events, but that's just not possible. So we do have a video getting posted on the town website. It's really the run-through of the plan. We're going to be using the one from the PZB meeting. I think the images and the words kind of lined up a little bit better with that one. But that way, when people go online to comment, they could watch the video, the walkthrough of the plan, just to provide a little bit more information and context to what's in the plan. I think most of you should have also received in your mailbox a postcard, which went out to all residents informing them of the plan. I know Brad is fielding phone calls and talking to lots of people. We've also scheduled some one-on-one meetings with some of the stakeholders, particularly in the McCrimmon area, so we could have some more of that dialogue. Some of those are virtual. Some of them are actually in person, socially distanced. But welcome and happy to consider other things. Just wanted to provide a little bit more information.
Okay. Did any remote participants have any questions or comments at this time? Okay. Thank you all. Brad, great presentation. We get to see you again on Thursday.
Forward to it.
We'll all be virtual for that one.
Okay.
That'll be fun. At this time, does staff have anything for the good of the body before we go into a closed session? Town Manager Page, anything for the good of the body before a closed session? Okay. We have one closed session this evening to discuss a personnel matter. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to enter into closed session. Then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll be in closed session.
So at the attachment 143.318 or 1186, for the closed session, discuss a personal matter, i.e.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rao.
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Fender this time. Town Clerk Smith, if you could please do a roll call vote to take us into closed session.
Councilmember Fender,
Aye.
Councilmember Garamella, Councilmember Garamella, Councilmember Rao,
Aye.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Cawley.
Aye.
The motion to enter closed session passes unanimously.
Okay. It is 9:57. We're in closed session. Let's take an 8-minute break. We'll come back at 10:05. Thank you very much to staff for your hard work.